North Melbourne 7-8-50, leading Fitzroy 4-7-31. Hawthorn have got the break on Brisbane 9-6-60 to 5-5-35. While Collingwood 7-5-47, they're leading St Kilda 2-4-16. And last night at the MCG between Carlton and Richmond, it was a win for the Blues, 20-15-135, quite comfortably to Richmond's 16-11-107. 3 matches last night in the Men's National Basketball League. Townsville thumped, it was Adelaide beating Townsville 116-91. North Melbourne, their 5th win in a row, 128, defeating Newcastle 99, while the winning margin for the Perth Wildcats over Geelong was 11.
The Wildcats travelled to Geelong as favourites and confident in the knowledge the Supercats hadn't beaten them at the arena since 1987. The match went each way in the first quarter. Adrian Branch on his way to a game-high 26 for the Cats.
Shoots. A pretty pure shot under pressure.
30 all at the first break, with the amazing Ricky Grace marking out Wildcat territory in offence.
To intercept, now Grace gets past Branch, up goes the shot, sensational Ricky Grace.
And his team picking up the defensive pace to hold Geelong to just 18 points in the second quarter. Things got closer in the second half, but the Wildcats held on for the predicted win. Final score Perth 119, Geelong 108.
And just the one match in the Women's National Basketball League last night, where Adelaide 80 defeated Bulleen Melbourne 58. And a reminder that ABC's coverage of the Women's National League gets underway this afternoon, and that features the Sydney Flames and Adelaide Lightning. Quickly, results in the Goodwood Handicap from Morphettville and Adelaide just run a short time ago. Number 12, Ambala, over those other 2 horses. I'm afraid I don't have the results in front of me. Time now to go to the Bruce Stadium in Canberra for our Rugby League match of the day. It's between the Raiders and St George. Your commentary team is Warren Boland, Peter Jackson, and on the sideline, John Peard and Debbie Spillane. Canberra, they've got a great record at home. Let's see how they go today. Hope you can join us.
A perfect record at home has earned Canberra 3rd spot on the ladder, and a hiccup against the Gold Coast last week should only spur the Raiders on. Mal Meninga is as awesome as ever, but Brett Mullins has withdrawn with an ankle injury, so speedy and elusive country origin winger Ken Nagus drops back to threaten from fullback. Mr. Dependable Steve Walters is the unstoppable dummy half. David Furner, the mobile, hard-working second rower and goal kicker. He'll pack alongside Jason Croker, more than reliable in any position. St George, after a top start to the season, have plummeted to 3 successive losses, managing just 1 try in 3 games. Phil Blake, a fresh reserve, is the attacking genius who can change all that. Winger Jason Donnelly has pushed Ricky Walford down to reserve grade, while captain Mark Coyne will be desperate to inspire his side. The non-stop Wayne Collins has been recalled to first grade. Gordon Tallis will chase a Queensland jumper from the bench, while Brad Mackay will be out to retain his blue jersey. Live from Bruce Stadium, the Raiders versus the Dragons.
Hello everyone, welcome to the national capital where it's sunny but fairly chilly now, and a very important game. St George should be breathing fire today because another loss would send them down the ladder to possibly 9th or 10th place. Now, there's a lot of changes in both teams. 7 or 8 changes have made a mess of that program. But for St George in particular, Scott Goulet is out. They have Luke Felch starting in the front row and Andrew Walker starting at 5'8". But surprisingly, on the bench, it's Phil Blake and Gordon Tallis, Jacko.
Yeah, mystifying decision by coach Brian Smith. The problem with St George's play over the last couple of weeks is they haven't been able to score tries. In fact, they've only scored 1 4-pointer in the last 3 weeks. So to put Tallis and Blake, arguably St George's 2 best attacking players, on the bench is a gamble that we'll see if it pays off.
Now, on the other hand, good news for Canberra with Daly, Stewart and Clyde all starting.
Well, they've got the big 5 out there, Canberra. They've got Meninga, Daly, Stewart, Clyde and Steve Walters. Whenever Canberra can field those 5 players, I believe they're close to the best team in the competition. They'll take a lot of beating this afternoon.
OK, on the sideline, 2 political animals, Debbie Spillane and Johnny Peard.
Thanks, Warren. Well, they tell us there's a cold front forecast. I don't know what that means. They call what we've got right at the moment. As you can see with the harometer, there's a fairly stiff breeze that's gusting. It's going to be helping the side running right to left in the first half, which is Canberra. They've won the toss and decided to run with it. Well, Jacko's already touched on the dearth of tries for St George over the past few weeks. Canberra have scored 46 tries, more than any other team in the competition. Petey, I guess that puts St George in danger of being the counterpuncher team today.
Well, certainly. I think Brian Smith's thought about this long and hard. It's a crucial game for St George. Andrew Walker in the starting position, got a stronger kicking game than Phil Blake, but Phil Blake's in that position on the bench where he's most dangerous, along with Tallis. Maybe Brian Smith's a little bit superstitious. I think they can get out today.
And maybe they're nostalgic for the days of those explosive replacements of Tallis and Blake. Back to you, Warren.
Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, John. And a very good crowd here. They were expecting upwards of 20,000 people, and there's plenty of them arrived here. It was a sellout earlier on. At least all the seats were sold out. And great expectations of a tremendous clash. Certainly both teams have been knocked around by injuries, but still two very strong teams on the paddock.
Well, they have been knocked around by injury, but you'd have to say that of the two teams who've had a number of casualties, you would have to say that Canberra are better off. I mean, Brett Mullins will be missed at the back, but Ken Nagus, we saw last year on a couple of occasions when he filled in, he can make a fine fist of the fullback job. As I said earlier, the big five are there, so if the big five are there, you'd have to tip Canberra, I believe.
It's going to be very interesting to see just how this game pans out and whether Brian Smith's selections on the bench work for him. There's a young Raider. Of course, Jacko, you played down here. It must have been pretty chilly on those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night training sessions.
Oh, I never used to turn up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sheen's the only wanted me to turn up on Sundays. No, it's very cold. I remember when we used to play at Seaford Oval, I used to have to jump in the spa bath, warm my feet up, get them rubbed down with Dank Rub before I put my socks on. Otherwise, they'd go numb in the first 5 minutes.
And here come the Canberra Raiders, this reshuffled lineup, with Ken Nagus dropping back to fullback with Brett Mullins out injured. Albert Fullerby comes onto the wing wearing jersey 15. Mal Meninga and Ruben Wiki in the centres. David Boyle comes onto the other wing with Noah Nandruku out yet again. He hasn't played since the Sevens tournament. David Boyle there on the wing then. So Laurie Daly at 5'8", Ricky Stewart half-back, Bradley Clyde lock forward, David Furner alongside Jason Croker in the second row. Paul Osborne gets his chance in the front row wearing jersey 21. Steve Walters and David Wesley also up front. And the Dragons on the field. At fullback is Rod Maybon, Ian Heron on the wing, Mark Coyne and Graham Bradley the centres, Jason Donnelly keeping Ricky Walter down in reserve grade, Andrew Walker at 5'8" in jersey 19, Noel Goldthorpe at half, Brad Mackay, Jeff Hardy, Dave Barnhill, the back rowers, Luke Phelps, the 20-year-old in the front row alongside Wayne Collins and Tony Priddle.
Well, as we said, interesting selection. Luke Phelps, he's played 1 or 2 games as a replacement for St George. He's not an outstanding attacking player by any stretch of the imagination, but perhaps Brian Smith just wants to go for a bit of stability and perhaps try and hold Canberra in the forwards and do something out wide with the likes of Coyne and Bradley and Maybon. But it's a tall order when you're looking at the likes of Meninga on up against you.
The referee is Bill Harrigan, and someone in the crowd has thrown a flare onto the field from the far side. A bit of soccer crowd entertainment for themselves there at the moment. I thought we were going to have a skydiver come down in the middle of the kickoff. So Andrew Walker, the 20-year-old playing at 5'8" today, and Luke Phelps, the 20-year-old in the front row, and 2 young men with a very important job to do for the Dragons today. St George, who won 5 of their first 6 matches, have lost 3 in a row, going down to Norths, Illawarra and Canterbury. And on the other hand, Canberra, who had won 4 in a row until last week when they, in a shock, went down to the Gold Coast. But certainly City Country had something to do with that.
Yeah, I think it would have probably tipped St George hadn't they had Canberra not lost to the Gold Coast. We see Bill Harrigan finding St George up inside the 10-metre line. Laurie Daly takes a quick tap.
And away goes Lozic very quickly over that 10 metres, gaining the 10 metres. He wants to put the pressure right on St George, and did it too, because the Dragons were just pedalling backwards. Now Furner's gone without it, and St George go away with it. Quickly it goes from Walker out to Donnelly. Crosses back into the Canberra half. The cover defence quickly sweeps across to pick him up though. Now Phelps takes it forward. He's 30 metres out. So the quick tap for Canberra only lasted 2 tackles before they coughed it up. The penalty against St George for being inside the 10 metres. Now Barnhill skirts wide, well tackled by Croker, went low. Boyle comes over the top. Now Priddle, and he burrows his way to the 10-metre. Last tackle coming up now for St George. Goldthorpe kicks across field. There's no, yes there is, it's Heron waiting for it, but he's out. He was already over that touchline. For a moment there, I thought there was no one waiting, but he got there and was waiting already.
Well, it was a bizarre sort of a kick. Looked like it was always going to go out dead, as it eventually did. Noel Goldthorpe just putting a little bit too much meat behind that one, but Ian Heron, man on the spot, the old Chookies back in first grade. Here it goes. A little chip kick across. We've seen that over the years, of course, Willie Kahn and Alan Lang of the Masters, but just a little bit too much meat on it.
Well, Canberra from the 20-metre tap. Out it comes to Ferner. Of course, there's a number of players playing against their old clubs today. Paul Osborne getting his chance against St George, but on the other hand, Barnhill, Blake and Collins playing against Canberra today.
Canberra got some mobility in the back row there. They've got Bradley Clyde, Ferner, who's got good feet, and of course Croker, probably the fastest forward in the game. So that could be a problem for the St George defence, just on the fringe of the ruck. As Ricky Stewart finds the line, will he? No. Mabon to bring it back.
And if we check the for and against this season, you can see that both teams are fairly similar in defence. You can see there Canberra have given up 129 points, St George 131, but look at the difference in attack. Canberra, second best attacking side in the competition with 236 against St George's 162, which places them just 10th in attack. Admittedly, they haven't played all the same opposition teams through the first 10 rounds, 9 rounds, but that difference is significant. Now Priddle hit hard by Croker and Osborne. Wayne Collins very keen to make the most of his chance back in first grade. Nathan Brown played in the under-21s and is on the bench. Nagus bringing it back. Now Fullerby can't get away. At the beginning of this season, with Gary Belcher leaving Canberra, there was a battle for the fullback spot between Nagus and Brett Mullins. Well, Brett Mullins has won that battle, but they don't lose too much with Nagus back there.
No, he's very quick, very elusive, returns the ball well and pretty comfortable under the high ball as well. I actually thought Nagus would get the nod for Canberra at fullback with Mullins in the centres, but it wasn't to be.
Now Daly putting the kick downfield towards that corner. Mabon chases. And a fine kick by Daly. Beautiful length on it. Couldn't have been better.
Well, that was a great kick by Laurie Daly, but let's hope we see him run. Here it is, a nice little stab kick to the sideline, emulating Ricky Stewart. But let's hope we see Laurie Daly run the football a bit more this afternoon. He's a devastating runner of the ball and a real pleasure to watch.
And we can check the early scores in the President's Cup. A narrow win to Canberra, 16 points to 14. And in reserve grade, St George getting up, 27 points to 22. And St George are currently, well, that would put them in the lead in reserve grade.
Well, you'd have to say if St George are leading reserve grade after this game, there might have to be some drastic changes if St George can't come up with a win.
Likewise, Canberra right down the bottom of the reserve grade ladder, surprisingly. Good strong defence there by Wiki. Now Felch tries to spin away from Wesley, David Wesley. Another young fellow trying to make his mark in first grade. Brian Smith almost chewing the chewing gum nervously. More strong defence from Osborne and Ferner this time. Now Walker with the kick. Croker tried to chase it down. Nagus misjudges. Here comes Heron. Heron could get it. Keeps it on the toe. This is play on. Juggled though by Mackay. Hardy with the ball now. Can he find them? Bradley in centre field. Cut down just short by Meninga. Only a couple of metres out.
Try saver by big Mal Meninga. I think St George butchered that try.
It was the last tackle and it was a handover, so now it's David Boyle.
Well, Ken Nagus made an absolute meal of that. He didn't realise the St George chases were onside. They always chase onside St George. It's a great habit. Brian Smith's got them in. Very dodgy situation there for the Raiders.
Nagus looked as if he had it very well covered and then just eluded him. The judgment wasn't there, and then the bad bounce really made it an awkward situation for him.
Warren, tremendous kick by Andrew Walker. Plenty of altitude. Fine kick. If he can keep that up, he'll keep Nagus on his toes.
There's a bit of early drama for St George. Ian Heron's limping badly on the wing. Ricky Walford looks to be warming up.
Now Paul Osborne is playing strongly. He's fired up, Osborne. He spent too much time in reserve grade for his liking this season. Last tackle now, Daly goes deep, real deep. Away from Mabon, down to the 20. Great kick by Laurie Daly for the second time, and that kick is into the breeze.
He's got a big boot on him, Laurie Daly. When I first came to Canberra, there was a rumour, I'm not sure if this is verified. Here we see the big kick by Laurie. He's got a tremendous kicking game, all the skills. There was a rumour that the Sydney Swans were actually, in fact, after Laurie Daly as a schoolboy to sign up. So that just goes to show what and natural talent he is. Also interesting that to see that Laurie Daly has been taking the long kicks. Maybe Ricky Stewart's hamstring's a little bit dodgy. Therefore, Tim Sheen's decided Laurie can do the big woofer downtowns.
No points on the board after 7 minutes. St George have got the scrum win. Brad Mackay. Mackay seeking a State of Origin jersey, at the very least on the bench. And away goes Mark Coyne. There he beat Wiki, comes down to Nagus, slips it away, and here goes Walker. Chased by Foulabai. Andrew Walker, ankle tap, stays on his feet, scores St George's second try in 4 games. And from their own side of halfway, the break made by Mark Coyne. He just managed to elude Ruben Wiki, I think it was, who missed the tackle. It's 4 points to 0 to St George. And that would really give them a boost to know that they can score from their own end. Here it is with Goldthorpe hunting wide. A lovely ball comes out to Coyne. He gets on the outside of Wiki, sprints downfield, comes to Nagus, gets it to Walker. Desperate chase here from Foulabai. Couldn't quite get to him. And a good try. Great try by St George.
We see this drifting defence here by simple missed tackle by Ruben Wiki here. We see Mark Coyne puts the accelerator down. A nice little body swerve. Great professional centre, Mark Coyne. Positions his inside man beautifully, and Andrew Walker sprints away for a great try. A great boost to St George. They needed to start this game well, and they've done that with a great try to Andrew Walker.
Yes, Goldthorpe, of course, did very nicely here with this long pass to give Coyne that little bit of room, but not a very good attempt by Ruben Wiki. Of course, is in the middle of a contract dispute between the Auckland Warriors and Canberra, but beautifully finished by Walker. He positioned himself beautifully. Andrew Walker, former Randwick Rugby Union player, and only 20 years old.
That bust almost a carbon copy of Mark Coyne in the semi-finals last year. We saw him do that on a number of occasions, especially to the Raiders.
Walker to attempt this goal, 21 metres out. Brian Smith will be saying, gee, I made a good selection at 5'8". Walker's kick won't make it across the face of goal. But St George have scored the first points of this vital match. They lead 4 points to 0, 9 minutes gone.
Yes, St George really needed a start like this because the talent's still there, but the confidence has been down after 3 losses. But there's a cutout pass. He skipped Walker, but Walker stayed alive. There's Walker on the inside, just linking up inside. Laurie Daly thinks he's a little bit late, Laurie Daly, and Walker all the way. Fine selection, and with Phil Blake there on the bench, they're well equipped around that half and 5'8" area.
Back to halfway.
That replacement of foreshadowed has been made. Heron has gone off Warren, and Ricky Walford 15 on the wing.
It must have hurt Ricky Walford's pride to be dropped for the first time in how many years is it at St George?
13 years in first grade, I believe. That's what I read in the paper anyway. Papers don't lie, do they?
Not very often.
I think he's coming up for 10 years, Warren.
So, is that with St George or in all clubs?
Yes, with St George. He's been with Eastern Suburbs, of course.
And Norths, I think, for a little while.
That's correct.
Well, Tony Priddle now takes St George forward. Collins gets it to Mackay. Tries to step inside Ferner, but Ferner adjusted well. Now it's Goldthorpe. Out to Hardy. Came off Wiki, and it will go over the touchline off the Canberra player. St George feed.
Well, everything going with the St George Dragons at this stage. Ruben Wiki just rebounding off his knees. That little chip kick, or little stab kick through by Jeff Hardy. So the Saints certainly have got a little bit of luck on their side, and they'll need luck. They'll need luck to win this game this afternoon. There's Chook Heron. He looks like he could have done a fetlock there. He looks in a lot of pain.
And here's Mackay from the move, worked off the scrum win. He and Heron will be very disappointed. I mean, he's been down in reserve grade with Nick Zisti and Jason Donnelly up in first grade. Gets his chance and then gets injured early in the game. St George looking a good side here. They're moving the ball well. Maybom now. Knocked over by Wesley. 20 metres out. Bradley. Graham Bradley still going. Through the tackle. Pups the pass. They hang on to it well, but no, it's gone forward, or is it lost? Bill Harrigan right on the spot. Felch was backing up.
Well, Graham Bradley never ceases to amaze. He looks like the slowest centre in the world, but he just keeps on making breaks for the St George side. We see here he takes one off the ruck. We see here he takes one off the ruck and he just bursts through, keeps those legs pumping. Now, he had a player inside. Now, it looks to me like the player inside is actually tackled without the ball. Penalty to St George right in front of the post for mine.
Canberra try to clear it away through Fullerby.
A bit of news from the St George bench. It looks like medial ligament damage for Ian Heron, and it makes an interesting situation. Andrew Walker wasn't going to be the goal kicker if Heron stayed on the field. I suppose now they've got Walford, but Walker was expecting to be interchanged with Blake. So
Great run now from Steve Walters. Steams up the middle. No support for him. Gets away from Maven. Can he go all the way? It'll be an amazing try. It is Steve Walters. An amazing try. Has run 55 metres straight up the middle of the field, and a hooker has outspent the St George defence. What a player he is. Not known for running 50 metres. He can do everything else in the game. Now he shows us yet another skill.
Well, here he goes. Big Steve Walters spots a big gap in the centre of the ruck. Here he is. They call him the tractor. He calls himself the tractor. Look at him go. Just shows a bit of speed there to get through the main line. Comes to the fullback. He runs around the fullback. The first hooker to beat Rod Maybon in 40 years. Felsh chases, but he can't brack him down. And Stevie Walters, what a great try. The great hooker, the great Australian hooker. Here we see...
Well, Priddle and Hardy were left standing at the marker area, but Wayne Collins wasn't a weight to Walters either. But why weren't there any St George wingers or backs chasing? Luke Felch is the closest to him. Dave Donnelly just arrives late.
Tremendous try by Steve Walters, rated by Bob Fulton as the greatest hooker of all time.
Gee, that is a wrap.
Well,
David Furner with a 54% goal-kicking average. The ball's rolled off the mound, so he'll have another attempt to get it right. That's one area that Canberra have struggled a little with their goal-kicking this year. Meninga, not really a reliable goal-kicker these days. Furner with only 54%. Meninga 33% this season. They've been scoring so many tries, they haven't needed the goals very often. But David Furner trying to convert a tremendous Steve Walters try. And it's straight between the posts. It couldn't have been any straighter. Canberra hit back and leads 6 points to 4 after 14 minutes.
A good dummy half runners just know when to run. This bloke's no exception. See the markers there caught up amongst each other, Priddle and Hardy. Look at the pace. He's got the ball in the left hand. Normally being the right hand, he's just treating that fullback with contempt, and Maybon doesn't miss too many because he's got pace. And look at Bill Harrigan, bird's eye view all the way.
Yeah, very loose around the marker area there, St George. Brian Smith won't be happy with that. They've got a good defensive side, St George, and they're very disciplined around the marker area. Perhaps that's been the problem in recent weeks.
Canberra scoring 5 minutes after St George's first try of the game. A quick reply. And both teams looking to move the ball around pretty well so far. Meninga trying to hit it up. Furner steps back into them. The loss of Scott Gourlay must hurt St George's running options out wide.
Yeah, he was playing some good football, Scott Gourlay, getting his hands free and running 2 and 3 wide of the ruck at the smaller backline players and causing all sorts of damage. There we see Ricky Stewart. There's definitely something wrong with Ricky Stewart's hamstring because he didn't put any gusto into that kick whatsoever.
Wayne Collins was diving through the air trying to charge it down. Donnelly. The absence also of Jason Stevens has really hurt St George. If there's one injury that has coincided with their slump over the last few weeks, it's been Stevens out. They just don't have that depth around the front row position. And of course today it's Luke Felch up there. It was going to be Gordon Tallis originally. I'm sure Brian Smith would rather use Tallis in the back row. In my opinion, he should anyway.
Yeah, I didn't know he was a front row until he was picked in the front row, Tallis. When he was coming off the bench, I always thought he was a back row. Did a fine job as an impact player. And I'm sure that St George will be looking for that today. Ken Nagus picks up and goes for a gallop.
Lovely tackle by Andrew Walker. The question remains now, when will Smith use Blake and Tallis? At what point in the game? Will he save them for the second half? Is he hoping he can get away to a lead and the groin injury in particular of Tallis might be protected for a week? Here's Walters with another good run. He's played it and gone. And the referee says it was okay, and again they are slow to gather him in. He's gone all the way down to Maybon. Jeff Hardy couldn't go with him. He's last tackle coming up. Out to Osborne. Daly kicks through.
Boyle chasing. Jeff Hardy was back there. I don't know what Hardy was doing, having dropped back, but he was there and did the job.
Jeff Hardy had 20 stitches inserted into a nasty gash last Sunday in the Canterbury game, so interesting to see if he favours that at all. 20 stitches is a fairly nasty gash, Johnny.
Yes, he's got that knee well strapped. Bradley, who ran so strongly before and almost scored a try solo. Felch, Luke Felch, a St George junior and an insurance broker. The man to see after the game. Andrew Walker's kick down to Nagus. He's well positioned this time. But the St George chasers are coming down in a line to surround him. He falls at the feet of Walker that time. Bradley Clyde, who we haven't seen a whole lot of so far in the match. And Collins is hurt. Croker.
Gee,
Hasn't Jason Croker played well in any position all over the field in recent weeks? He's been brilliant. He's Canberra's leading try scorer. Osborne now. The penalty has gone against St George for offside play.
Gee, there's some room around the rucks as Bill Harrigan gives St George a bit of a lacing here. There they are offside, but there's been room around the rucks. And he's caught the outside backs. This is a tough call for Saints because the pressure's really on them now. And Steve Wallace has just covered more ground than the early Explorers. He's having a tremendous game.
Isn't he? It appeared that it was Brad Mackay and Noel Goldthorpe creeping up just to the right of referee Harrigan. They didn't come back to the mark he was setting as the 10 metres. Particularly Noel Goldthorpe, he really didn't seem to look at the referee, and he took off very quickly and accentuated the fact he was offside. Here's Wayne Collins. It looks like he's copped a knock, and there's the smelling salts.
The old smelling salts, eh? When in doubt, whack a bit of smelling salts under your nose. Sore leg, smelling salts. Sore head, smelling salts. Sore ear, smelling salts.
Don't they smell terrible?
They smell that bad, they make you forget about your injury. That's the whole reasoning behind it.
David Furner, 34 metres out, close to centre field. Taking plenty of time over it. He's hit it straight enough, and it's there. Fine kick by David Furner. He's landed his first 2 shots at goal. Canberra lead, 8 points to 4, halfway through this first 40 minutes. Well, both teams have had their moments so far in the game.
Yeah, St George probably fair to say that they're perhaps even a little bit unlucky not to be in front on the scoreboard. Nathan Brown warming up, of course. He played half a game in the 21, so he'd be reasonably fresh. And Wayne Collins, we'll just see how he goes after getting a dose of the smelling salts. Should be right, but with the smelling salts.
A deep kick down to Stewart, who hands it off to Wesley. New South Wales selectors will be watching Ricky Stewart's performance in this game today. More so just checking on that injury. As you say, he's just looked a little hesitant so far.
He's a great bloke to have on the field, but Ricky Stewart, tremendous talker, tremendous organiser, and Tim Sheens has him penciled in to be the replacement as skipper when Mal Meninga retires at the end of the season.
Here goes Paul Osborne. A great pass comes out to Ricky too. Over the halfway, Ricky can find Croker. Here you go, can't hang on to it. Jason Croker ready to sprint away for what would have been his 10th try of the season and couldn't hang on to it.
Well, Jason Croker, a prolific try scorer, doesn't mess up situations like that too much. Good run by Ruben Wiki and a great inside ball from Paul Osborne. He really has got some skills, Osborne.
And he's been involved in everything so far, Ozzy Osborne. He's hit the ball up 6 times and also made 12 tackles, twice as many as most players.
And this 10-metre rule, but there's Croker, just can't come up with that ball. This 10-metre rule, geez, Ricky Stewart came onto that ball to put Osborne away, but there's so much room around the rucks. When you've got a team on the back foot, gee, you can keep them there just by progressively just running onto the ball.
Last tackle and St George run it. Goldthorpe to Hardy. Flick inside. Coyne goes without it. And he really should have held on to that one, Mark Coyne. Didn't have a lot of time to react, but you'd expect him to take it.
Well, he's called a knock on there. I don't know whether that was... Well, that to me's gone over his shoulder. How can that be a knock on? He's had to turn around to grab it. Play on St George.
Yeah, it's a fair call by the words in the rule book, isn't it?
Yeah. Phil Harrigan must think he's Ken Nagus for a split up the middle. He'll street him.
Ooh, it just got him from behind. Goldthorpe grabbed him by the shorts and held on. And I tell you what, it would have been trouble for Mabon trying to get Nagus one-on-one. Daly, Meninga on the boil. Comes back inside, but the defence read it well. Well, Crocus tackled.
They've got all sorts of troubles behind the play the ball, St George. That's the third or fourth break we've seen in the marker area. They've really got to pick that up. Steve Wohlers will destroy them.
And a change out there with Felch off and Gordon Tallis on. Mabon. Well tackled by Boyle. Donnelly goes up the blind side. He's too fast for them. Croker can't get to him either. Great work by Donnelly. Now cuts back infield. Referee Harrigan's beating them all to the try line. He's down on the 30. Great tackle in the end, though, by Clyde. There wasn't too much support. Tremendous thinking there by Donnelly, though. Mark Coyne now escapes a couple of tackles. Got away from Daly. Right back attempted by Walters. St George player. Well, it's gone against Walters, the penalty. Except that he didn't face up directly in front. There's a fair battle on the ground for the ball.
There's a bit of hockey 1, hockey 2 here. So you see Mark Coyne getting up to play the ball. Yeah, Stephen Wohlers in no position to rake for the ball there. In fact, most people that rake the ball in the dummy half area really have to be scrutinised a bit closer. I mean, they're always hanging over the top of the bloke playing the ball.
Though to be fair, I thought that Walters was standing right in front of Coyne before he got up, and as he got up, he just moved front forwards and left a little, and that put Walters in the wrong position. But Walters then has to adjust, doesn't he?
Yeah, St George having all sorts of trouble around that marker area, John.
Yes, good, even that Nagus made the last run, but Steve Walters is very aware in that area. And they've got some big forwards there like Priddle. He's a little bit slow off the ground, Priddle. He's a long lad. And they just sensed that, and they've made some inroads running out of dummy half.
It's interesting this week that Wayne Collins has been put in there rather than Nathan Brown. Brown made 41 tackles last week for St George, but was dropped because Brian Smith felt that his attacking play wasn't as crisp as it had been. Collins, of course, is a hard worker in that area usually. Andrew Walker, 30 metres out. And it's swinging away. No, the flags are up. Flags are up, and St George add 2 points. Edge a little closer, only 2 points in it. Canberra leading 8 points to 6.
Warren, the point I was going to make before about Walker being now the first string goal kicker is they want to bring Blake on. They have to throw the ball to either Ricky Walford, who hasn't kicked goals for quite a while, or I guess Noel Goldthorpe.
Well, Noel Goldthorpe kicked some goals last week. Well, they didn't kick many, St George, but he was the attempter last week against Canterbury. Ricky Walford could still kick goals. He was the leading point scorer only 4 years ago.
He doesn't seem keen to do it anymore, though.
So Ferner gets play underway once more. And underneath it is Mabon. And as he ducks low, he copped a clip over the ear from Meninga, but he was only about a foot off the ground. Now Tallis. Gordon Tallis. Will he make the Queensland Origin side? And if he does, where will it be? Walker doing well. Finally tackled by Wiki. Tallis steps off his left foot. Wesley's got hold of him. Of course, David Wesley is another chance for that Queensland team. Arthur Beetson thinks he should at least be in a squad.
Yeah, the mail is that the Queensland selectors are very keen on David Wesley. A big front rower, big bulky lad.
Collins kicks down the line. Nagus is across. Bradley in front of him and Goldthorpe. Nagus loses his footing. That's the second time he's slipped. Clyde. Bradley Clyde suffering from a foot ligament injury. Suffered in last week's game, early in that City Country game, but there was plenty of doubt as to whether he would play today.
Yeah, he's in fact been playing with the injury for a number of weeks. We've come to expect that from Bradley Clyde. If he didn't play injured, he'd never play at all.
Here's Walters now. Spun out to Wesley. Wesley strides through them. Pops it back now to Stewart. Stewart tries the position. Oh, great dummy by Stewart. Now he goes downfield, finds Meninga. Mabon knocks his ankles out from under him. Magical play, conjuring there by Ricky Stewart. The dummy to Daly filled them all. Stewart goes again now. Wide to Daly. Daly sees a bit of a chance down the blind side. Boyle is tackled. 18 metres out. Last tackle. Daly wants it.
Pops the kick through, but there's no chasers coming through there. And that one's gone astray.
Well, desperation kick by Laurie Daly. Really a gamble, didn't pay off.
Well, none of his teammates knew what he was doing as he shot to the blind side, but then the kick hooked back in. Was not being followed. Look at this lovely work by Ricky Stewart here.
That's a great ball by Wesley. Now, watch the old dummy here. Oh, that's a master at work for you. I thought Canberra could have scored here. Big Mel just losing his footing perhaps a little bit. A blessing for the St George side.
He mesmerises you with those dummies, Ricky Stewart, doesn't he? Turns teams inside out.
He's got me a few times.
He's got me from the commentary box. Last tackle coming up for St George. Walker. Would have thought about running it, and it's a wobbly old kick, and I bet he wishes he had run it. He had Coyne and Walford with an overlap. Admittedly, it was his own side of halfway.
See, it looks like he has numbers here, but Boof off the old side of the boot.
Yeah, he could have run that. He had Hardy out there also. There's only one to beat down the short side.
Meninga fighting with Bradley.
Hands off, hands off.
Barnhill slowing him down. Osborne adjusted to take that pass.
He's been causing some problems, Osborne. That was a nice ball he got back to Wesley.
Ferner accelerates, it goes straight through to Mabon, steps past him and pops it away to Steve Walters for the Hookers' second try. Lovely work by David Ferner, sheer power and a little bit of a left foot step to give him the chance to just drive straight through them. Walters' support play was perfect. It was a desperate tackle to stop Ferner, but Walters was at his shoulder, ready to take it. And look at the power of this run here from David Ferner. He goes straight through David Hardy and Barnhill, steps past Mabon. Great tackle from behind by Priddle, but it couldn't stop the try by Walters.
Well, bad defence here by the St George side. Everyone knows David Ferner steps off his left foot, straight through Barnhill, and Steve Walters backing up on the inside. David Ferner in doubt before this game with injury, but he's certainly okay now. Steve Walters putting it down for his second 4-pointer. Could it be a 3? Could it be a hat-trick day for Steve? There's the step. I mean, that's just poor defence. There's no other way to describe that. Poor defence by two experienced St George players. And if they keep missing tackles like that, blokes like Steve Walters will just keep coming up with the 4-pointers.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy, the first man in, and Dave Barnhill, a close second. Just didn't put David Ferner away.
Well, the thing about it is, Warren, is that I'm sure Brian Smith would have told them, and every player in the Winfield Cup knows that David Ferner steps off his left foot. He was always going to step off his left foot on that occasion. It wasn't read well at all.
Now Ferner could throw this over. He's kicked 2 from 2. Make it 3 from 3. And the Raiders now starting to take a firmer grip on this match. 14 points to 6 in favour of Canberra. 10 minutes till half-time.
Saints really playing for that kick by Andrew Walker. Went over the sideline, gave Canberra the ball. This is the Ferner movement here. Good footwork. Steve Walters, the dummy half, ideal position to back up from. He's always on the ball. That's try number 2 for Steve.
I see Rod Mabon slipping over there. I've seen Ken Nagus go on his bottom a few times. Perhaps a warning there for players or clubs coming to Bruce Stadium to put the long sprigs in.
Well, I noticed Jason Croker just had a change of shoes while that was all happening.
He's got good feet, that David Ferner, hasn't he, Johnny, the prince of the podiatrists?
He's got a good left one. He certainly didn't inherit it off his
chance that Georgia claimed a try, but they're offside at the play the ball. Didn't line up directly in front. They tried the sharp little play, towing it through and trying to regather. In fact, they did. And their arms were high, appealing to the referee. Look at this. The marker was Tony Priddle. Kicks through, but he was standing to the left, and he dives for the ball with Walters.
Don't know, I'd like to have another look at that one. Geez, it looked okay to me.
Well, I thought Priddle was just to the left, but you can bet that Bill Harrigan didn't have too much idea back on the 10 metres. Ferner pops it away to Croker. Clyde. Up to the halfway line. Stewart goes wide towards Wesley. Down on the halfway line. 14 points to 6. Another quick look at this.
Whether he's square. Oh, I think he's pretty square.
And here goes a chance for Coolabye as it comes inside now to Wiki. Down to Mabon. He makes a good tackle. Last tackle coming up now for the Raiders. They'll want to swing it wide here. Stewart looks wide, throws a beautiful ball to Osborne. Got to keep it going. Meninga now. They're crowding though. Clyde just hangs on, and that's the final tackle, and it's a handover.
Well, you picked it in one then, Warren. They certainly crowded into the sideline. The St George cover defence just coming across, pushing Big Mal into the sideline. There's nothing much he could do in that situation. They needed someone to change an angle or hit the ball in a straight running fashion.
Yeah, on one hand, it was good that Stewart went to the line, but then the long ball just let the defence go straight across onto them like a net.
Yeah, it's certainly overrated, the long ball.
Laurie Daly seems to be limping. I don't know if you saw him in the background there, and he doesn't seem to be moving too freely. He's out near the wing.
Hands off.
10 short of halfway, and it's Tallis. Tries to drive through them, but Ferner with a good tackle. Now Collins catches them napping. Sneaks right through almost, gets it to Hardy. Good burst by Wayne Collins, just returning the doses he's copped from Steve Walters. Goldthorpe spins it to Coyne. Bit of trouble here for Canberra. The kick ahead from Coyne. Walters is back there. He's everywhere.
There must be two of him out there today. There's two, Stephen.
And Ross Kelly, Dick Telford cheering on the Raiders.
What's Ros do now?
I'm not too sure.
Patron of the Raiders, is she? I know she's patron of the Raiders, but...
Backbencher.
Backbencher.
Whiteboard cleaner.
Oh, I knew you were a political animal.
Oh, jeez. I thought you'd be sticking up for the female entourage. Deb.
Here's Ozzy Osborne again. Another strong run.
He's having a whale of a game, Ozzy Osborne, against his old club. See, there we see Ricky Stewart. Now, that's not a true Ricky Stewart kick.
It's still not a bad one, is it?
Yeah, that's
has that been knocked on? No, he was running back, and the referee's given him the benefit of a doubt. And as I know you're going to say, Jacko, well, that one might well have been propelled towards his opponent's goal line.
Well, work that one out. If Mark Coynes was a knock-on, and that one wasn't.
Bradley, good strong run, and he finds Barnhill. Barnhill comes down to Nagus, steps away from him, but runs in a Coolabye. He can't get him. Barnhill can't get the pass away. Walford arrives now. Great run by Barnhill, and the support was too slow.
Yeah, where was the support from St George? Trigon begging Barnhill, waiting with the ball.
Now it's Bradley, and Walker can't hang on to it. Play on, Mabon dives on it and forces a scrum. Canberra slow to dive on that. No urgency, they're getting possession.
Warren, if Bill Harrigan had had a white with a red V on, he would have scored under the post then.
He was flying.
He was.
Let's give Graham Bradley a rap. Unfashionable. There's the last little one. And here's Graham Bradley. That's a good run. He's always keeps the ball available, Bradley. And Andrew Walker just can't... Well, he probably was tackled without the ball. Actually, Ricky Stewart grabbed him just before he got the ball. But Graham Bradley, he never ceases to amaze me. He's the most unfashionable-looking centre you've ever seen, but he just keeps coming up with the goods.
Meninga just shoves him away with disdain. He threw away Bradley, who was trying to tackle him.
He won't be the first bloke to be fended off by Mal Meninga.
Ferner throws the dummy, now pops the pass to Wiki. And Mark Coyne pushes him into Walker's arms. Just back into the St George half. Daly. Boyle, one-on-one with Donnelly, and the Kiwi makes the tackle. Good tackle too. Nagus. Last tackle coming up for the Raiders. Stewart hunts down that blind side, and he's gone straight through. It's too easy for Ricky Stewart. Inside for Clyde, and that is just simple stuff by Ricky Stewart. Too simple, really. St George's defence cut to ribbons by Stewart. He realised there was a weakness, sensed there was a weakness down the blind side, and exploited it to the full. Canberra 18, St George 6.
Well, this is pretty ordinary. Here you go, Ricky Stewart coming back to blind, dummying, weaving, people hanging off him everywhere. Gordon Tallis comes up with an ordinary miss, and Bradley Clyde was always going to score from there. Ricky Stewart, he's only half fit, but he's still chopping up the Dragons.
Well, he looked to the blind side, saw that St George were thin on there, and he had 3 men against one, and the winger had dropped back. But Gordon Tallis misses the tackle. If Ricky Stewart's got the ball in his hands, you've got to knock him over. You can't be mesmerised, and they've all fallen for it here.
Well, he's a great player, Ricky Stewart, but there's a bad miss by Barnhill. There's another couple of bad misses there by Tallis. Ricky Stewart, not the biggest or strongest player, but certainly tricky. And Tricky Ricky puts his teammate, his Australian teammate, New South Wales teammate and great friend Bradley Clyde over for a try that puts the Raiders way out in front.
Well, there were 3 reaching, arm-grabbing tackles from the Dragons there that just let Stewart escape.
Well, there's probably be some criticism of Brian Smith and the St George club, but realistically, I mean, the 2 tries we've seen, the last 3 tries have just come from poor defence from the St George players. Poor positional defence and poor execution in the tackles.
Furner, 10 metres in from touch, just outside the 20. And this one is wide, so he misses for the first time, and a few black clouds behind that kick. Canberra lead, though, 18 points to 6. Not long till half-time now.
Yeah, St George not playing with any confidence, really, compared with the team we saw earlier in the season. But there are a couple of cheap misses there, and Ricky knew where Bradley Clyde was on the inside. That's not going to do St George much good just before half-time with about 3 minutes to go. That's really dented them.
What an outfit Canberra. Brian Smith not happy at all. Doesn't look happy at the best of times, Smithy, but certainly disappointed with that performance in defence. Short kick-off.
Variation from St George. Coyne knocks it back, and Walford's got it. And they've got 2 minutes till half-time to try and get another try back, St George. They're down by 12 points. Mackay towards centre field. St George's problem in recent weeks has been ball control and not scoring tries. No doubt during the week they've worked on their attack, but it looks like they forgot to hit those bags. Total errors, St George 21, Canberra 14. And 15 missed tackles by St George, though Canberra have also missed 11. But total handling errors by St George 6 against Canberra's 3. Goldthorpe, he's got the call from Coyne, he's given it to him. Coyne to Walford, they need this try, and they've got it. Beautifully finished by Ricky Walford. Is the ref giving it to him? Yes. Got that ball down in a wink of an eye, didn't have much room to move. Lovely ball came out to Mark Coyne, and now it's Canberra's turn to be on the receiving end. Just before half-time, they should have held them out here, but Canberra 18, leading St George 10. St George with a kick to come, and really, in one set of 6, after taking the short kick off, St George have got the ball back to their credit. Look at this lovely ball from Coyne, to Coyne from Goldthorpe. And a little in and away there, just put the defence in 2 minds. Stewart couldn't stop Ricky Walford.
Well, Canberra simply just short of numbers, and Goldthorpe summed it up beautifully with the long pass to Coyne. I thought he may have gone himself here, Mark Coyne, but unselfishly gives it to Walford, and that's a great winger's try. Ricky Walford, no matter what, if you give him the ball and there's 4 points on, 9 times out of 10, he'll get it down over the line. There we see Coyne drawing in Fulavai and Ricky Walford over in the corner. Tim Sheens won't be happy about that. Just before half-time, letting in a try, and the Dragons really are back in it now.
Now, Andrew Walker can really get St George back into this game well and truly. They'll be down by 6 points if he can land this goal, but it's going to be very difficult for him. But that try will lift St George. Down by 12, they would have been staring down the barrel, and some heated words from Brian Smith at half-time.
Interestingly, Ricky Walford just came over to the bench and told the doctor he's got a knee problem himself now.
Walker misses, won't go all that close. Score remains 18 points to 10. Canberra in the lead, and wasn't this a lovely pass from Noel Goldthorpe, Peardy?
Yeah, that's the second time that Coyne's got around Ruben Weeke with a long pass from Goldthorpe. Look at the room with the 10-metre. He gets a good chance to size things up. There it is, right out in the open. Ricky does well to get this down too because of the bit of defence there. But that gives Saints some sort of hope, right on half-time.
Laurie Daly seems to be okay coming into the game with a knee ligament injury, but with that guard on it, he seems to be okay. Canberra, who've scored 3 tries to St George's 2. They've kicked 3 goals to St George's 1. And at half-time, it's the Raiders in charge, 18 points to 10. Last week's correct answer was Mitch Healy, and our major prize winner of 2 tickets plus airfares to the second State of Origin match in Melbourne went to Wendy Knight of Sanford in Tasmania. A Cronulla supporters pack was won by Ken Anders from Evandale in Tassie, and a Canberra supporters pack went to Mr E. Serry of Ingham in Queensland. Now this week, St George versus Canberra from 1991. Who scored this try? Was it Gary Belcher, Ricky Stewart or Brett Mullins? The numbers will come up in a moment. For Gary Belcher, Ricky Stewart or Brett Mullins, who scored this try? And those numbers, 0055 605 24 for Gary Belcher. For Ricky Stewart, 0055 605 25. For Brett Mullins, 605 26. The prizes, 2 tickets plus airfares from anywhere in Australia to the second State of Origin match, 8th of June at the MCG, plus 2 supporters packs. The lines are open until midnight Thursday.
See the best in the Women's World Basketball Championships. Coming soon, Oz 94.
We'll take you back to Bruce Stadium shortly for the second half, but first an AFL update. 3 matches being played today. North Melbourne by just 4 at the moment over Fitzroy. 11-9-75 plays 10-11-71. The Hawks 14-12-96 are leading Brisbane 7-5-47. And Collingwood 11-9-75 are leading the Saints 4-6-30 at the MCG. The feature event in racing up in Brisbane today is the Doomben 10,000. It has been run and an eventful race with 2 riders falling off. Let's pick up the closing stages.
Corner followed by Ferragamo, Unequalled and Flitter. Then Slight Chance, Big Dreams, Deposition, Blondin, and there's 2 down. There's 2 down. Baggio is gone, and so is Silver Neon, a sensation. Down the side, 600 to go, and Bella Snap on the inside is just the leader. From Bint Masqué, All Our Mob, Sprightly Jet, Archie Keelia. Then Dapple up on there, followed by Bucks Pride, Morden, Cape Stat on the rail. Then Flitter, Slight Chance making ground, and Tiny's Finelio a long way back as they turn the corner into the straight. Bella Snap, the leader, joined by Bint Masqué. All Our Mob on the outside, then Archie Keelia, Morden, and Flitter running home well from Bucks Pride. Bint Masqué in front past the 200. All Our Mob trying to get to it from Archie Keelia and Flitter. All Our Mob and Bint Masqué together at 100 to go. All Our Mob and Bint Masqué. Flitter is flying on the outside. They hit it. Flitter, I think.
That late finishing burst by Flitter indeed did seal it, winning this year's Doomben 10,000 ahead of All Our Mob and Bint Masqué. In Adelaide, Morphettville was the venue for the Goodwood Handicap over 1,200 metres. Chiliad starting favourite at 4-1.
Came Chiliad from Ambala, followed then by Superior Arts, not far off them. They were followed by Gitana, and then came Lord Monet, but wide, followed by Terrere. Then Jeune, who's picked them up quickly. They were followed by Zapari, let him riders there. Length off then to Simon Statten, 2 or 3 away last of all. Game Ginty inside the 600, rounding the turn. Street Ruffian, the leader. Pitcairn Editions in the middle, and 3 deep was Blue Boss from Starshot, the Western Australian. Around the outside of those was Balmoral Bow starting to come into it from Yankee Dapper. Then All Imagination. Superior Arts got nowhere to go. Neither's Chiliad nor Ambala, and down the outside Corregidor starting to run on, and they were followed further back by Let Him Ride, who's starting to slide, but the leader Pitcairn Edition now from Corregidor, and down the outside Let Him Ride is starting to come, and so is Simon Stather across the track getting through Blue Boss, and now Ambala the mare put her nose out and she's grabbed the AWA Goodwood.
And nice odds too. Number 12, Ambala at 60-1, ahead of number 4, Simon Stat at 6s, and Let Him Ride at 12-1. Well, a record 156 test matches, 265 innings, over 11,000 runs, an average of 50.56. It will be hard for anyone to match Alan Border's magnificent test career. Before we take you back to Bruce Stadium, we have this tribute to a player whose test career spanned 15 years with 93 matches as captain.
Border received wonderful reception when he came out the back today.
It's always hard to say save the night with winning matches. I'm basically fed up with all the innuendo, etc., and speculation, and you know, I'm basically telling you officially that I'm going to retire from international cricket.
I think Alan Border was having trouble because he loves playing the game so much. He enjoys playing cricket. It's been such a large part of his life. and I think he enjoyed the players that he had around him.
Damage is done. To see a guy who's given so much be as upset as he was in the last 24 hours, I just think it's wrong.
At least his successor knows that he has a good side to carry on with. And that's a legacy which is a lot down to Alan Border.
Yep, one of the greats of the game, Alan Border. Just a reminder before we go back to Canberra that ABC will have exclusive coverage of the Australia-New Zealand Netball Test Series starting this week in New Zealand. Test 1 can be seen next Thursday night at 11:05. And time now to go back to Bruce Stadium and Warren Boland.
Thanks, Karen. Yes, with the retirement of Alan Border, I'm going to have to start looking like some other famous Australian cricketer. Here at Bruce Stadium, Canberra are leading 18 points to 10, and a very exciting second half coming up for you, I believe. Our State of Origin lineups will be named after this weekend. Jacko and I will discuss them in just a moment, but first the judiciary. Now, last Saturday at half-time, I said that whilst some of the criticism of the judiciary was fair, in my opinion, they didn't deserve the open slather bagging they were copping in some quarters. Well, after this week's events, I'm afraid my support is waning. The point last week was that over the season, the judiciary had dealt with 15 cases of first graders. Of those, I thought they were either dead right or close to the mark in 14 of those cases, the exception being the Jamie Ainscough tackle. In the Craig Field case, the judiciary was right, the appeals tribunal wrong. We seek perfection, but 1 out of 15 is a pretty good record of getting both the guilt or innocence and the penalty pretty right. So to this week, Newcastle's Tony Butterfield was suspended for 5 weeks for kneeing Tim Brasher. The knee was dangerous and deliberate. Who could argue with 5 weeks? Balmain's Bernard Carroll was exonerated of a high tackle on Andrew Johns. Caught on the wrong foot, Carroll certainly made contact on the neck or chin, but the judiciary believed Carroll's explanation that his arm hit the ball, then bounced up. The judiciary has been consistent this season in giving the benefit of the doubt to the tackler. Now to Matt Toshak from North Sydney. He was suspended for 4 weeks for a high tackle on Andrew Neve. Toshak did wrap his arm around Neve's chin, and the Cronulla player left the field concussed. Mind you, I suspect the first Norths player into the tackle, Josh Stewart, also made some contact with Neve's head. But anyway, they found Toshak guilty. Maybe by definition he was, but how bad was it? As vicious and intentional as Martin Marcella's teeth rattler, which copped the same suspension, 4 weeks, Toshak should have copped 1 or 2 weeks tops. Meanwhile, Mitch Healy was neither reported nor cited for this dangerous lift of Gary Larson. Yet back in round 1, Steve Renoff was suspended for 2 weeks for a spear tackle no worse. And Balmain's John Elias, the ball carrier here, wasn't cited for this forearm and elbow to the head of Newcastle's Tim Madison. Surely there was a case to answer in both of these. What about Newcastle's Steve Crowe for this high shot on Paul Sirenen? Or to a lesser extent, Mick Neal's coat hanger on Crowe? Or lastly, Bulldog Jared McCracken's attempt on Tony Priddle, admittedly more spectacular than it was lethal. While I agree these didn't require further action, Matt Toshak must be shaking his head. Well, I just can't believe that Matt Toshak got 4 weeks. There's no way he should have got anything like that. Just makes me wonder whether there's football common sense on the judiciary. I know we've got some ex-players there like Ron Coote and Kevin Journey, but I mean, I can't believe that a decision like that comes out of it.
Well, from what we've seen this year, if Matt Toshak deserved 4 weeks, there's certainly some players who got let off deserved 8 weeks. So, you know, I can't work it out, the judiciary.
Even last night, there were worse head highs, and I mean, a penalty was all that was found to be warranted.
Yeah, I'll just have to agree to disagree with a lot of their decisions and leave it at that, I think, Warren.
All right. Let's have a look at now our Queensland State of Origin lineups, the way that, well, not so much that we think the selectors might go, but the way that we would. I don't think there's too much argument about most of the back line, except that Dale Shearer's injury is still a question mark. But the forwards, I think, is where the real arguments are, and I've gone for, as a back row, Billy Moore, Gary Larson, Gordon Tallis. You've gone Billy Moore and the Smith brothers.
Yeah, I just think that it's the first year that the State of Origin will be played with the 10-metre rule, and I just think to have mobile forwards that can do something on the edge of the ruck, a la Jason and Darren Smith and Billy Moore, I think it will be so important. I think Gary Larson can handle the front row position. What he lacks in yards, he'll certainly make up in defence, and Walters and Bella pick themselves.
Well, I've gone for Gavin Jones in my front row, and I've certainly got the Smith brothers on my bench. I think that they're well worthy of being in that Origin squad. You've got Alan Cann and John Plath. Alan Cann, surely a question over his fitness at the moment.
Well, of course, I picked these teams subject to fitness, but I've got 4 genuine impact players on the bench for Queensland. Tallis, Cann, Coyne and Plath can all come on and do something, and I think with the 10-metre rule, in the last 10 minutes of each half, these State of Origin games, there's going to have to be some room for guys that can come on and do something, and certainly Plath, Cann, Tallis and Coyne fit into that category.
Sure, I think that front row spot for Queensland is one of the most contentious. I mean, I've gone for Gavin Jones, Mark Hone on the bench, but there's some guys who should come into the thinking, shouldn't they, like Darren Fritz, Andrew G, for example?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Hone does get the nod, but I believe you need mobile forwards with the 10-metre rule, and I think if Queensland pick mobile forwards, they'll have an advantage over the big New South Wales pack. Sure.
Now, last week we put up our New South Wales squad after the City Country matches. I haven't really got too many changes that I'd like to make to them, though Paul Sirinen put in a big one for Balmain, and I think that selectors will go with Ciro in the second row.
Well, I think there's a little doubt that the New South Wales team for the first State of Origin game will be the same as the New South Wales team for the third State of Origin game last year, with the inclusion of Brett Mullins at fullback.
Sure. And, all right, we'll all find out what the selectors do on Sunday and Monday. Here come the Raiders, back out for the second half. And we can take a look at half-time stats in a moment. There's Paul Osborne. What a big first half he had. Time in possession, Canberra got 55% of the ball, and in the opposition half they had 60%. St George actually completed 4 sets of 6. Canberra only got through 1 completed set, which surprises me a little. Line breaks, St George making 9 against Canberra 6. That also seems a little surprising. Kicks in general play, Canberra 10 against St George's 7. At half-time the score, Canberra 18, St George 10.
Well, St George have done, looking at those statistics there where Canberra have had 10% more of the ball, St George have really realistically have done pretty well to go into this second half, and I believe that the breeze will be at their back in this second half, and I'm not quite sure how the breeze is going. Looks like it may have died down a little bit, but with the breeze at their back and only 8 points behind after not having the advantage in possession is not a bad effort from the St George Dragons after all.
Second half underway on the blow of referee Harrigan's whistle. And Debbie Spillane, well, what's all the news from the dressing room? It's a bit of fire in St George, I'd say.
I think it was quiet in St George, but Petey looked after that one. Tim Sheens is expecting a bit of a wind change for the Raiders in this half. He thinks that the wind may swing around behind them, and in which case he wants them to kick into the corners and just use the breeze, especially if they start to feel tired. Petey, St George was a bit sad.
Well, Brian Smith, he just wants them to go to the game a little bit more. I mean, you just got to go to the game in attack and defence. Also to maintain the good width, because Coyne's got around Wiki a few times, and Goldthorpe can continue with those long passes.
Yeah, it's a good tactic by St George, those long passes, because the Canberra side play a drifting defence. See Andrew Walker put a kick downfield straight to Ken Nagus. Canberra play a drifting type of defence or a sliding type of defence, so that means they're always moving laterally across the field. So if you can get a long ball and get a person to straighten onto that ball, you'll always have the defensive line in some sort of trouble, as we've seen with Mark Coyne.
Well, let's see who got through all the work in defence in the first half. Top tacklers. Paul Osborne leading the way for Canberra with a 17. Steve Walters and Bradley Clyde 11. For St George, Brad Mackay got through 13 tackles. Priddle and Hardy 11 and 10. So Paul Osborne getting through a heap of work because he was heavily involved in attack as well. And there he is in for another tackle.
I've never seen him play a bad game down here, Paul Osborne. He loves those TV cameras, I think. Don't we all, but...
And St George on the halfway. Barnhill. Collins cuts out Priddle and finds Bradley. Bradley playing almost like an extra forward today.
Unloading some super balls.
Warren, he set a bit of an example for the other St George players. Just got to keep taking the ball to them. With the 10-metre rule, you're going to lead up 40 metres with a good kicking game on the end, and perhaps Canberra, if they can push them into a fumble like this kick here, force a fumble, and they're in good field position.
Goldthorpe's bomb went straight up in the air on the last tackle, and it's a handover. They're only 23 minutes out, and what a dreadful last play.
Well, Noel Goldthorpe last week against Canberra, a number of his kicks were pretty ordinary. His kicking game in the last couple of weeks has deteriorated, and that was the great strength of St George last year, was his ability to land the ball on a 20-cent piece.
Lovely pass there from Walters onto Wesley. In the handover area. quite surprising. It's 3-0. St George have handed it over 3 times.
Well, that just goes to show their bad kicking game.
And here's Ferner on the edge of the ruck. Bradley slowly off him. Clyde, one out. Little dummy, almost intercepted by Donnelly and pulled back in by Tallis. That's a scrum for the knock-on. That knock-on may have been ruled against Donnelly. Very nearly intercepted, though. Clyde trying a bit too hard here.
Yeah, knocked on by Boyle. Actually came off Donnelly's knee, then came off Boyle's arm. So good decision by referee Bill Harrigan. Had some assistance from his touch judge, which is the way we like to see it, as long as they get it right.
Could have also been a little hand in there from Walker coming around the back of Clyde. Now Mackay. Slipped away from Clyde, but not from Boyle.
That's been a handy play for Saints. And again, if the centre Bradley can just get up towards the advantage line, I think Mackay could slide in behind the line. They've attempted it twice.
Barnhill and Goldthorpe combined. Now Bradley's lost it, though. Canberra also knocking it on. Not that the Canberra players think that was the case.
Well, that's the first mistake we've seen Graham Bradley make today. There, just pops out. Yeah, it was a knock-on by the Canberra Raiders. They'll get the ball back and they'll shoot down the blind side through Bradley Clyde.
Well, misunderstanding between Stewart and Clyde. Almost left it behind. One of our ABC crew men on the sideline was saying that in the first half, Brian Smith was repeatedly just yelling to the heavens, what was that? Looking at some of the St George defence, and he was also very unhappy with St George for walking a time. Now, that's not our crewman, the ABC crewman. That's the Raiders boy out there cheering his troops on.
Victor the Viking, they call him, Warren.
Do you know Victor well?
I know him quite well, actually. Done a bit of raping and pillaging with him over the years.
Probably gone for a drink at the bar with him too, wearing that big hat. Stewart fires it out to Daly, and he kicks high. This is a bomb that's putting pressure on Maben. The chasers are there. Up goes Boulevard, comes back to Canberra, and away they go, and Wiki has scored. No, pull back. Pull back. Knock on as they went high. They went up and certainly challenged Maben for that ball, but it came forward according to referee Harrigan. George recover.
Here it is, goes up high by Laurie Daly. Good kick, Laurie Daly. Plenty of pressure. Well, I think that came off Rod Mabon then. Fair try to Canberra.
From that angle, it did seem to go back rather than forward. But we'll give the benefit of the doubt to either referee Harrigan or the touch judge, or maybe even the in-goal judge might have had a nod. Barnhill goes straight up the middle, beats 2 tackles. Not for the first time in the game, can't find support, but a lovely kick into the corner. Fulavai's back there and Walford's there to meet him.
Well, once again, David Barnhill left floundering with no support from the St George side. Lack of enthusiasm, I believe, not to support the player with the ball.
You'd have to query him kicking, but Peter, it wasn't the last tackle, was it?
No, I don't think it was.
Peter, didn't the same thing happen to Barnhill last week against Canterbury? He made a bust right at the middle and there was no one with him again.
Yes,
right.
And he threw a bad pass to Goldthorpe, and it ended up with Canterbury scoring a try at the other end through McCracken. Here's Daly switching it to Meninga. He's bumped off one, flicks it out the back. Canberra have got it, managed to dive on it.
Great play, Laurie Daly. Great desperation. That's what I'm talking about. The desperation level of St George just isn't there at the moment. There's a loose ball on the ground as Ricky Stewart pumps it downfield to Ricky Walford.
And Walford didn't touch it. He's in trouble. Stayed in the field of play on the tippy toes. Now Maben steps nicely but loses his footing.
Talking about the desperation, I mean, you've got to be desperate. A ball on the ground's got to be dived on. Laurie Daly moved 5 or 6 metres to grab that ball with St George players all around him.
Now Coyne. And Jack, I think that's one of the secrets. If you're a team who wants to throw the ball around, you know some balls are going to end up on the deck, and you've just got to have those guys ready to dive. Now Hardy.
St George have made a replacement. Barnes has come on for, sorry, Nathan Brown. I've done it again. Has come on for Wayne Collins.
We'll forgive you.
Some cheerio to Mr. Walker.
Out it comes to Priddle. Priddle runs hard. And Nathan Brown goes into dummy half. Last tackle. Walker. Now this is a better bomb.
Pressure for Nagus, but no one really got to him. Jeff Hardy, amongst others, just seemed to hold up. Just didn't. They could have got through to Nagus, and they seemed to just trot through.
You've got to compete. When the ball goes in the air, you must have players competing. It's a great take by Ken Nagus, but not under much pressure. There it is. It's a good bomb. A good protection by the Canberra side, but regardless, St George players should have been there competing for that football.
There was protection there, but the St George players didn't seem to push them out of the road to get there.
That's what I say. I think the lack of desperation from the St George side is evident today.
Here's Stewart. Nice timing in his kicks, even if he's not really putting his full body weight behind them. Down to Maben inside his own 20. Smart piece of play, but it's only risky, really, when that's the end result of it.
I think that wind change Tim Sheens was hoping for might have just kicked in. The wind seems to be swinging around, so that Canberra could be running with the wind in both halves.
Local knowledge. 18 points to 10 in favour of Canberra. 8 minutes into the second half. Canberra led 18-6 before St George hit back just before half-time. Now Bradley, another good run by Graham Bradley. Surely one of St George's best out there today, but he's lost it.
Great bumping run by Graham Bradley. Undid his good work with a poor pass at the end. Here comes Phil Blake. He's running on. Interesting to see who he replaces. Here's a beautiful bumping run by Bradley. Now, if he just can put up a good pass to Andrew Walker here, it would have been a great play. No, he actually just got pulled down from behind Ricky Stewart, grabbing his arms, therefore the ball coming loose. Andrew Walker having a spell, Phil Blake back on.
Daly dummies, goes wide, now he finds Nagus. Nagus carves his way through. Maben can't catch him. Great run by Ken Nagus. He has exceptional speed. He's one of those deceptive runners. He's such a long strider. You think you can go with him and you can't. Rod Maben thought that he had his measure, then all of a sudden Nagus was disappearing into the oblivion. Canberra 22, St George 10. Laurie Daly does some lovely work here. A little bit of a dummy, goes across field, opens it up for Nagus, and the defence just didn't come across to cut the path off once they passed inside. And Ken Nagus, he does it easy.
Well, one of the great things from scrum plays. Here we see great decoy run by Mal Meninga. That keeps Brad Mackay there. Clever play by Laurie Darling. From the minute Ken Nagus put that ball under his wing, it was always going to be a try. Poor little Rod Maben takes about 5 steps to Ken Nagus' one, and he couldn't pull him back at all. Great try, the Raiders. Here we see Laurie Daly, beautiful play. That's beautiful 5-8 play, creating space for the men outside you. On this occasion, the man inside you, and Ken Nagus showing a clean pair of heels to Rod Maben. That won't do his State of Origin chances any harm as he goes in underneath the post. The king of Kyogle, they call him, Kenny Nagus.
And I tell you what, if Willie Kahn isn't fit, well, it's... oh, sorry, I've got the wrong Origin team, haven't I? Wendell Saylor's got to be on standby for Willie Kahn, and Ken Nagus can't be too far off if one of the New South Wales wingers isn't available.
He might find himself on the bench after also being able to play fullback. Here goes David Furner. He'll throw that over, straight over.
Yes, added to the extras. Canberra now with a commanding lead, 24 points to 10. Ken Nagus from Bundaberg via Kyogle to the Raiders.
Caesar Queensland, I knew there was something good about him.
You look at this scrum here. Here's Daly. Just watch Phil Blake. He goes across him. It's like, look at them all chasing him. It's like herding cattle into a pen, and this bloke's just finished it off, Nagus. Geez, he's deceptively fast. And boy, he's a prospect, and Canberra have come up with another good talent.
We've got a change in the Canberra lineup. Hetherington in 42 on for David Westley.
You've got to give Tim Sheens a rap, I think, and his scouting methods. I mean, he's come up with some players from absolutely out of the blue. I mean, you look at Noah Nandruka, you look at Ruben Wiki, you look at Ken Nagus. I mean, he's got to be congratulated for doing the miles, basically, and looking him all... There he is there. He's got the beard on, he's got the Darren Hinch on. But doesn't suit him that much, I don't think, Sheensy, but he's done some great job. And his helpers with the marketing and the scouting of the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah, Sheens has done a tremendous job. He's scouted through New Zealand, Tonga and Fiji, come up with some real results for him. And here's Nagus again, just inside the St George half. Surely a penalty. It is a penalty against Graham Bradley. Well, they're getting a little desperate now, St George. They realise they're on the ropes here. They've got to slow them down. That potent Canberra attack starting to run free. And here's Bradley all over the top of Nagus, holding him down. That's more like wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah, so
trying to get a 3 count.
silly penalty by Graham Bradley. He's blotting his copybook a little bit with that drop ball.
To the line, guys, to the line.
I've also been a little bit of an elbow nudge in there too. Now Osborne winds up, crashes to the 20. St George have got to stop Canberra here and now if they're going to get back into this game. 28 minutes to go. Brett Hetherington into the fray for the Green Machine. Plays it back now. Osborne, full of running, takes on Barnhill. Popped one just under the chin, it looked like. He's okay though. Walters. Stewart fires the ball to Daly. Crossfield he goes. Here come the runners. It's Wiki. Wiki out of a tackle. Coyne hangs on grimly. 2 metres out. The Raiders hungry here to put this game away. Meninga, the Fullerby, he's there. Fullerby over in the corner. Scores the try. And it's goodbye St George. Will take a hell of a game from them to get back now. Canberra 28. St George 10, and it was coming repeatedly over the last few tackles. St George's defence was being sorely tested here, and Meninga, a lovely short ball, but why did Ricky Walford come off his wing there?
Well, that's the question that has to be answered. Ricky, here's the play beforehand. Laurie Daly drifting across field, finding Ruben Wiki. Ruben Wiki, he's signed with Auckland, he's signed with Canberra, he's signed with Manchester United, he's signed with the Houston Oilers. He's got his eggs in all baskets. They're short on the left-hand side. Now, Ricky Walford, an experienced wingman, comes in to take Mal Meninga. He didn't have to. Fullerby left with a free run to the line. This will show a better... Laurie Daly drifting across field, decoy runners everywhere. There's Ruben Wiki, the man of many, many, many clubs. And we look on the left-hand side now. Now, St George have the numbers on the left-hand side. Brad Mackay has Mal Meninga covered. Ricky Walford needed to stay out, but did not do so. And Fullerby over in the corner. It's all over now, Warren. The Raiders will run away with it.
Yes, St George staring at 4 losses in a row now. David Furner out wide. You can understand why Walford... Well, you can understand the reasoning why Walford came in. Anyone would think Mal Meninga's going to be a handful for more than one player 2 metres out, but the fact was he had to stay on his winger. Well, Furner has pushed it just wide from the touchline. Reasonable attempt, but Canberra now leading 28 points to 10.
You'd have to question why the ball was called on the short side. But this is the rugby for it, where Daly, as he does it so well, fairly ordinary defence by Goldthorpe then, but that was the incision that made this all possible. And you have to question going the short side, but Mal Meninga put it down to him, experienced player. Notice Walford came in, and there's the result. Over 50 tries to this side this season.
St George try the short kick again. Donnelly gives chase, but it's well taken by Croker.
We talk about the Canberra side before and earlier as we did the preview, Warren. We spoke about the big 5. We spoke about Stewart, who set up a try. We spoke about Clyde, who's scored a try. Steve Walters has scored 2 tries, and big Mal Meninga, the other member of the big 5, has just set up the other one. Very hard to beat when those 5 are playing good football.
As Daly goes across and finds Furner and pops it out the back to Walters. If you go to Africa and you go big game hunting, they go for the big 5. And I tell you what, if you saw Mal Meninga bouncing across the wilderness over there, well, you'd need a blunderbuss to knock him over.
You need a dead-set elephant gun.
Hey, you'd need an elephant gun with Osborne today too. Because he's really motivated Osborne. It's a challenge for him to come up into first grade and play against his old club, and he's had a tremendous game, Paul Osborne. He's a great survivor in this game.
He is, and it's a good masterstroke by coach Tim Sheens, because Brett Hetherington has been on the bench for a number of weeks and probably in the pecking order deserved to start before Osborne, but Tim Sheens, knowing Osborne up against St George would be in for a big game, and he hasn't let him down.
Good work by Donnelly here to get it out to Mackay. They take it up to the 20, but they've got 80 metres to go to get a try. And there's 5 tries to 2 at the moment. Time in possession and metres give us an indication of what's been happening with the ball. There it is. Canberra now dominating with an extra 300 metres over St George and 56% of the ball.
Warren, if you saw those stats without seeing the game, you'd say Canberra would have scored at least 5 or 6 tries, 56% possession rate. You just can't give teams like Canberra that sort of possession rate. And here's the kick again as Goldthorpe just trying to plug one down the sideline.
Yes, you're right, John. If you've got that much ball, the likes of Canberra and St George and Canterbury these days, they score tries, don't they?
They certainly do.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's to say one thing, that's sure. We look at the game last night, Manly had a hell of a lot of possession, but only came up with 1 try in 80 minutes. I think St George have perhaps got to look at some of their defence.
Yeah, good point.
Yes, and the techniques of some of the St George players today really surprised me. Slipped off simple tackles, just not good enough. There's no great intensity there. They don't seem to be playing for their football future. It's just like another game to some of them.
Here's Croker, and he pops it to Meninga. Meninga strides into the clear.
Take him on now.
Takes on Maven all right. Pokes the pass, but it was too low for David Boyle. Down at his knees. It was a short, sharp pass from Meninga, but Brian Smith, well, he just wishes that Jason Stevens or Scott Goulet or someone was out on the field.
Here we see the beautiful ball by Jason Croker. He's a good player. Big Mal, what a sight. He looks like a big train. Get out the way. That pass just at Boyle's knees. If he could have kept that on the toe, he might have been a try.
It was great to see Meninga just take him on there too. You've been waiting to do that whistle, haven't you?
Yeah.
Warren, I think you've got to stop letting Jack have so much sugar before the games.
Yeah, it's that high caffeine Coca-Cola, I think. Smelling salts, it might be something shaking him up today. Here's Tallis, 12 short of halfway. Gordon Tallis has been nullified since coming on. Don't know whether that groin injury has knocked his confidence about, but he really has not been an impact player. Priddle has tried hard. Blake now finds a little opening. Nice tackle, though.
Great defence, Ruben Wiki.
Coyne goes the blind side. Caught Daly napping to Walford now. Kick ahead. It's really Ricky Walford or Donnelly going to have to do it themselves. It's Blake. Can't make the tackle, and Nagus strides away. Look at this. This is champagne. This is going to be 100 metres. Donnelly gives chase. How fast are you, Kenny Nagus? Jason Donnelly gives it everything he can, but it's not enough. Kenny Nagus runs 95 metres. And for the third week in a row, St George put on a play which looks like it might lead to a try. Instead, the opposition turns defence into attack and races the length to score. Canberra 32, St George 10. And just look at this, as Blake had gone down the blind side. Walford, a bit of a hopeful kick, really, but they should have made the tackle here because didn't they make it 98 metres. Look at Kenny Nagus straight out and just cuts them to ribbons. He's just sliced them. And once he's through, you're not going to catch him. It's beautiful to watch a man running. I mean, that's an athlete. Carl Lewis, eat your heart out.
Exactly. Warren Boland, eat your heart out.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Now, this is a good play by Mark Coyne. Nothing doing. He puts Ricky Walford in some space. Perfect legitimate infield kick, a good idea. Now there's one tackle miss. Now Kenny, he has time to pull his ducks up. Away he goes, just too much pace. That's class at its best, ladies and gentlemen, as he sprints away to score underneath the post. I tell you what, they had Brett Mullins penciled in at the fullback spot for New South Wales as Ferner moves in to add the extra 2, and he does so. They had Mullins penciled in at fullback. There might be a change for that. Kane Nagus might be there on State of Origin 1.
Yeah, well, Brett Mullins must wish he wasn't injured. Canberra 34, St George 10. Extraordinary try, and that defence found wanting.
Well, this bloke's really a talent. There he is, catching the ball. Phil Blake, pretty ordinary effort, really. Now watch Goldthorpe, he doesn't seem too keen. It's too late now, Noel. And look at the pace here. Maybon left again. Donnelly's a pretty slick customer, but he doesn't make any inroads on this fella. He's a tremendous player, and a little bit of news here from down on the grass.
Yeah, while all the kerfuffle's been going on, they've slipped Bradley Clyde off the field and replaced him with Steve Stone.
Well, they might as well take all the stars off and give them a run. They give the reserves a run, and give the likes of anyone carrying an injury like Daly, Stewart, all of them a rest, because they lead by 34 points to 10, and here's more trouble for Maybon as he's knocked to ground by a flying fool of eye.
Well, we mentioned Ricky Walford going for a go. We mentioned the big 5. Can I make that the big 6 now? Can I throw Ken Nagus in there as well? The big half dozen.
He really did make them look foolish. I mean, amongst others, Jeff Hardy missed a tackle that looked a very poor miss, and it wasn't a good one, but the likes of a Nagus can make you look pretty stupid in defence. Brown darts away, finds Blake, back to Brown. Blake again into passing and starting to create something too. Mark Coyne to Brown again, and over the top to Walford, back to Brown. That's exceptional football, amazing football, more like basketball. Finally a little kick dived on by Nagus to stop all that good work.
Oh, what can't he do, Ken Nagus? He's everywhere this afternoon. If we see a penalty for kicking in the play the ball area by Mark Coyne way too early.
The Canberra defence just a little loose in that last raid by Brown and his teammates.
I just checked about Clyde on the Canberra bench. They say there's nothing wrong with him. And also Andrew Walker's back on for St George. Jason Donnelly appears to have a leg injury.
Total tackles. St George have made 141 to 108 by Canberra.
David Ferner getting a rest and Wesley replacing him as well as Big Osborne takes a ruck up. He's been doing that all day. John, St George, could this be the end of the St George challenge for 94?
Well, they've really got themselves in a hole. Lack of confidence. The talent seems to be there, but they're nothing. They're only a shadow of the side that was so slick and well drilled early in the season. Good width, and some of their set plays were beaut. But they just seem to be in a hole at the moment. It's going to take a mighty effort to dig them out. Here's Steve Walters going out of dummy half once again.
And somehow manages to hang on to the ball, although he had it cocked ready to unload. Stewart to the blind side to Meninga, but the St George defence is there, and it's rebounded off Bradley, so it'll be a scrum feed to Canberra. But St George, if they don't lift themselves over this last 17 minutes, could be beaten by a 40-point score. It's 34-10.
Certainly is a possibility. I've said it all afternoon. I think St George, the desperation, and Johnny Peard summed it up quite well. They don't seem to be playing with the desperation required when you're in a survival game, which they are. If they lose today and lose another game, they've just about got to be finished for 94. Disappointing for a grand finalist from the year before.
16,108 people here at Bruce Stadium, and they've enjoyed what they've seen because most of them are Canberra supporters. Paul Osborne has made 21 tackles, leading the way for Canberra, and 15 hit-ups. That's a phenomenal effort from the big fella. Out to Daly, but it's gone straight over the touchline wide of David Wesley, who was lurking out there. So Canberra now just relaxing a little.
Peter, all teams seem to hit a valley during the season. St George are in a slump now. Here's that pass that just didn't find the mark over the sideline. We've got North Sydney in somewhat of a slump. And, of course, Manly had a losing stretch there. They've come out of it well. You've just got to fight your way out of it. All teams suffer a valley during the season, and St George are in a big one now.
And as I said earlier in the first half, I just feel that since Jason Stevens has been hurt, that has really been a problem for them. As Mark Coyne steps well, and he's down up to the 20 now. Coyne tries the pass. It was a hopeful one, trying to get it to Ricky Walford. Canberra have knocked it on as well. But you can see the desperation. It's catch-up time, and Coyne really had to try it, I suppose.
Mark Coyne's been by far their best player, Warren. Made many breaks, and at least he's trying a few things with a bit of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'd say Graham Bradley has done some good things, but also made a few mistakes. Now it's a St George ball. Bradley standing at 5'8" for that scrum, with Blake out in the middle of the field. Goldpool to Blake. He switches from left to right. Has the numbers too. Hardy spears through, and St George are in. Well, they've got a long way to go, and I don't think they're going to make it with 15 minutes to go. But Jeff Hardy, no, it's been called back. Well, it looked okay from here, but we are a long way away. But that's frustration for St George, as Phil Blake went from the left-hand side of the field to the right to get the numbers on the Canberra defence.
Here we see it here. Phil Blake drifting across field, does this well. Well, very hard to tell from that angle. Looked flat at worst, I'd imagine, but Bill Harrigan, fish and chips now. Have a better look at it than this. Now Phil Blake drifting across field. Well,
looked okay from here,
yeah,
but
touch and go.
Give the referee and the touch judge their due there, in line with it.
Yeah, the touch judge was right in line, and he was very quick to have a yarn to Bill Harrigan on the walkie-talkie and let him know.
So St George must be a very frustrated side. They're finding it difficult enough to score tries, and then they're having them called back. Daly. Oh, no, he throws away. Just thrust off Barnhill. Daly accelerates. Can't get the pass away. He had Steve Stone backing him up. Walters has gone to Stewart. They've got 4 against 2 here. Wiki now. Ruben Wiki running nicely. Back to Meninga. And the stream train winds up again. They're 11 metres out. The sun's gone behind the clouds as Canberra swing it wide. Croker knocked down by the St George player Blake, but St George have managed to get it back.
Well, just floundering at the moment, St George. Canberra making breaks at will. And they've really got to get some pride back into this jersey, St George.
And just while we're watching Canberra thrashing St George here, David Furner getting a rub down. Just a quick plug coming up on the ABC next week. The world champion Australian netball team is touring New Zealand. They're playing 3 tests, and here's a break by St George. Tallis running strongly. The pass comes back intended for Walker, but Canberra have come away with it. Now Nagas, what's he going to do? Gives it to Daly. Here's a chance for Daly. How fast is he still? Can he go all the way? Here comes Coyne. The kick ahead, but there's no one supporting you, Laurie. Tony Priddle's done well to be back there. And I think Priddle's played pretty well today all day. The pass across to Hardy just shows you there that Laurie Daly, while he's still fast, he's no world beater over the distance anymore.
Well, he's nowhere near as quick as he used to be. Let's not forget he is, as per usual, Laurie's carrying a knee injury, but he's very tight. Tim Sheens will take him off.
He's a very competitive player, and he's still a great player, Laurie Daly. He just doesn't have that brilliant speed that I think he had when he was a little bit younger.
Well, he's had that many injuries, you couldn't expect it, really.
True. Now Fullerby ducks away from the tackle. The St George, again, an ineffectual chip kick tried. Tony Priddle has made 24 tackles, so he's made more than anyone on the paddock for both teams. And here's Hetherington, pops it back to Croker. Croker will go all the way, they won't get him. Jason Croker rolls, forces it for a fair try, I'd say. Yes, there it is, and he scores his 10th try of the season. What a 94 he is having. He plays in the centres, he plays on the wing, he plays at 5'8", he plays at lock, he plays in the second row. Wherever he plays, he scores tries.
Here we see Hetherington taking the ball up. Now, once again, able to unload too easily. No pressure on him at all. Jason Croker goes in for his 10th try of the season. He's a fantastic player, Jason Croker. Don't be surprised if he's a bolter for the State of Origin side on the bench. There it is, a beautiful ball, one-handed by Hetherington. What depth they've got, the Canberra club. The sleeping giants of this competition. They must be putting some fear into the hearts of the opposition players as they watch this coverage. There it is, keeps the ball available. And Jason Croker, the man on the spot, always going to score in that situation.
Yes, fair try. His momentum carried him over as he rolled. And Ricky Walford's in trouble there. Looks like it could be a calf muscle injury, a cramp. Now, Mal Meninga, what was it we said earlier in the game? 33% success rate with the boot. But if he lands this, he's going to rub St George's nose in a 40-point score. It's close. It's there. Chicken George lands it. It's 40 points to 10. You're back to winner, Jacko. 40 points to 10 to the Raiders. There's still 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, with plenty of ball, the Canberra Raiders. Look at the room around the rucks, but we just saw Hetherington make a good run just before flicking a ball to Croker, but you've got to question some of the defensive work by the St George players.
You want to point the finger at anyone in particular, John?
No, but I think you'd be lucky on 2 hands to count the good defenders in the Winfield Cup. I really think it's a lost technique, defence. They're going low and hard. Really lost technique. But here's Walford rescuing the ball.
And Canberra have got it back on the first tackle. No, Walford's regathered. Wiki disputes it. Ken Nagas is having a rest, and a well-earned rest. He's provided some magnificent entertainment today.
He's been replaced by Luke DeVico in Canberra's lineup, and Laurie Daly's also come off a bit of an early mark for Canberra. I think he's been replaced by Martin John Kelly.
But he looks pretty happy. So St George, what can they do? A looping pass from Mark Coyne out to Andrew Walker. They're 25 metres out. Canberra's defence short on the right. Barnhill goes at him once more, and now the defence reorganises for the Raiders. Goldthorpe, long pass. Who was it intended for? Stewart's nearly intercepted. Probably glad he didn't. He would have had to run 70 metres. Blake puts a little kick ahead, but it's taken the corner post. Excitement for a moment for St George, but again, clumsy players. A loose pass came out, jolting their attacking momentum. Just getting back to that netball, the Australian netball team touring New Zealand. They're playing 3 tests against the Kiwis, or the Silver Ferns as they're known. The first test on May 17th, the second May 21st, and then the 25th of May is the 3rd test. And the ABC will be televising all of those tests on the 19th of May. That's a Thursday night. Monday the 23rd and Thursday the 26th. That world champion Australian netball team in action against New Zealand on ABC television.
Warren, there's a bit of banter going on down here between the coaches' benches. Brian Smith, in jocular fashion, he did say you had 14 on the field, but he said, can we have another 5?
Well, in adversity, at least he can joke, because there won't be too much to smile about after the game. And Tim Sheens, we were paying tribute to his scouting system earlier in the game, but I think everyone should pay tribute to him as a coach. I mean, since he's been in charge of the Raiders, have been a tremendous team, either winning grand finals or competitive every season. And last year, if not for the injury to Ricky Stewart, well, who knows what they may have been able to go on to do.
Yeah, but haven't they been a pleasure to watch, Warren?
Absolutely. I mean, they set the attacking trademark that others like Brisbane have copied. Of course, Wayne Bennett was at Canberra in '87 too, to either learn or to maybe spark some of that attacking momentum.
The other thing I like about Tim Sheens as a coach is that he really has his Noel Goldthorpe inside ball to Rod Maybon. He really has his players' interests at heart. The amount of times he stood down Stewart, Daly or Clyde because he thought that one more game might have done them some damage is, you know, when you've got media and supporters wanting to win, to stand down your good players is a really good thing for a coach to do, and I really respect him for that, Tim Sheens.
Here's St George, only 20 metres out, looking for those elusive tries. And the kick is too deep. Boyle's taken it on the full in the in goal. So they'll go back to the 20. St George will want to set their defence, because here come the Raiders again, and away goes Steve Stone. Stone, another player who's filled in well in the absence of Ricky Stewart in recent weeks. He's been doing the job for them at halfback. Ten short of halfway. 6 minutes remaining. Osborne, Stewart, flings it wide to Meninga, who's playing well. Now it's Boyle. Boyle chased by Blake. Can't keep him on the sideline, but gets the man on the ground anyway.
What about the hands by Meninga then? Tremendous.
Stewart cuts out 3 men. Osborne takes it. Went down on one knee and kept his eyes on the ball. He's the crowd favourite today. Steve Stone. Stone still going. Pops it back to Walters. Walters out of a couple of tackles. Can he get 3 for the day? Just short. Just short. Andrew Walker wraps up the ball. Inches out from the line. Stewart, a dummy half. St George kick it. Try and rake it back. They've mucked up the play the ball, and that's at least been achieved, but it'll be a goal line dropout.
Well, Steve Walters almost coming up with his hat-trick. I might have to change Jacko's judgment if he came up with that hat-trick. There he is, he's trying to kick the ball through. A little bit greedy, but who can blame Boxhead after the game he's had this afternoon?
Not too far off a try for Canberra there either. Stewart was after that ball.
What a fantastic player he is, Steve Walters. And when you think about it, really, if his brother Kerrod hadn't thrown a punch at Graham, when here we see the Raiders. If his brother...
lifted. Goldthorpe has lifted him. And it's at least a penalty. The Raiders are going to take the quick tap. Unnecessary tackle from Goldthorpe. The danger of a spear tackle is always there. Now Stone struggling, and he's lost it. That tackle surely was completed. What's the referee ruled?
Well, Steve Stone should have just stood still and played the ball then. He tried to keep pumping his legs, and the tackle was always going to be completed. He was never going to score a try.
Well, I think he's unlucky there that the referee didn't call play the ball. St George are hanging on to him. Now Bradley. St George back inside their own 20. Nathan Brown there with his boots covered in white strapping, all strapped up. Looks a little bit like the famous white boots of a St George legend. Here's Mackay. 10 short of halfway. Tallis. Steps, still going. Goldthorpe. Pass with a flat one to Brown. As Barnhill and Stewart collide off the ball. 2 former teammates. Quickly break it up. Tallis tries a kick ahead. Well, that's a hopeful one, but they're coming. Walford is chasing, but it's beaten them all into touch. And that reeked of Gordon Tallis saying, we've run out of ideas. I can't think of anything else to do, and I can't think of anyone who's going to do anything else if I give it to them.
What happens on Tuesday night, John, coming from an old coach. What happens on Tuesday night? What do you say? Do you change the players? Do you drop players? Do you give them a rev? Do you give them a caning on the training paddock? What do you do?
Well, that's very difficult and something that a few coaches are going through right at this very moment, I guess. But I think the talent's there. It's just a lack of confidence, and it's very hard to turn around, isn't it? When you lost confidence in some of the there's a rather high tackle by Phil Blake, but it's okay. But confidence is a thing that can only be brought around by success, and it's just going to take a hell of an effort from all the staff and all the players just to work together towards a common goal, to just get back on this winning track. How's that?
I think you got around it pretty well.
Well done, Coach Pearce.
If they can understand what you said when you go along on Tuesday. I guess you've got to be specific when you study the video and see who made the mistakes. Here's Hardy getting back well. St George looks such a well-drilled side. During the first 6 matches, they did lose to Penrith. I think the worrying thing when you start to study who they've beaten and who they've lost to was that during winning 5 out of 6, they beat Easts, admittedly Brisbane, that was a good win, Balmain, Parramatta and the Gold Coast, all teams that haven't performed in the top half of the ladder. Since meeting the harder opposition, they've lost to Norths narrowly, Illawarra and Canterbury, and now Canberra. I mean, once they've come up against the quality, and when the injuries have hit at the same time, they haven't been able to go on with it.
That lad with the ball, that's Luke DeVico. I think it's pronounced D-A-V-I-C-O. He's a good lad, very strong runner, played well in the second grade.
They're only 35 out here, the Raiders. Osborne shows it, loses it, toes it back to Croker. And Barnhill's got him. Well, the Raiders on their way to their 16th match at Bruce Stadium, where they haven't been defeated. It'll be 16 matches for 15 wins and 1 draw. And 6 wins at home this season. 6 out of 6. Last tackle. Stewart goes high to Maybon. Pressure arrives. Rebound from both of them. Stewart flings it out the back. They've got the penalty, Canberra.
Yes, St George player was offside then. Quick tackle taken by Canberra.
Tallis trying to interfere with Stewart. Could easily have been in the sin bin. Meninga to Boyle now. 1-on-1. Walker hangs on. Walker playing on the wing since coming back by the look of it. The siren sounded. The Raiders try to get one more try. But there is the last tackle of a sensational match for the Canberra side, and a very disappointing performance by St George. If St George's defence was weak, Canberra's attack was brilliant at times. And, well, a man with plenty of thinking to do, Brian Smith, heads back for the dressing room. Canberra have defeated the Dragons by 40 points to 10. And let's find out who is Jacko's judgment today.
Well, it could have gone to a number of players from the Canberra side, but there he is, Kenny Nagus. I gave it to him. Him and Steve Walters were the 2 outstanding candidates, but I gave it to Ken Nagus for his excitement value alone. That's a great try, a greater rugby league try as you'll ever see, a 98-metre job, and that was a tremendous effort by Ken Nagus, and he gets Jacko's judgment. But just pipped at the post, Steve Walters, Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, Mal Meninga, all outstanding. David Fenner, of course, while he was on there, and Jason Croker. And here's the man now, Kenny Nagus with Debbie Spillane.
Ken, congratulations on a great game. Switched to fullback late before the game. How did you feel about that?
Oh, it was a bit of a late decision yesterday at training, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. Brett had a bit of an ankle problem, so I didn't mind switching to fullback. Yeah, so.
State of origin selection in the back of your mind at all?
Oh no, not at all. If I just keep playing well and just pretty consistent every week, maybe it'll be a show. But at this stage, no. Yeah.
It was a fair good distance you covered, about 98 metres for a try there. Do you know what your best time is for 100 metres? Because you look as if you've got a bit of toe.
No, actually, I don't know what my best time is over 100 metres, but I'll tell you, I was doing it tougher over the last 50 metres, yeah.
I think Jason Donnelly was doing it tougher. Okay, John Peard standing by with another interview. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, well, I've got Ricky from the St George side. Ricky, how'd it look from the wing? They're pretty powerful when they get a fair bit of ball, aren't they?
They certainly are, John. You know, on a day like today when they had a fair bit of ball, and you know we were a bit tired at the middle today, and we let them make plenty of yards up there, and they got a bit of a roll on, and they made the most of their opportunities when they came.
Well, it was a crucial game for you. How was the preparation during the week?
preparation was pretty good, and blokes were going into the game pretty confident today. We knew it was going to be a tough match all the time. It always is for us coming down to Bruce Stadium, but they're just too good for us on the day.
Yeah, when they're in that sort of mood, they're pretty good for most teams, aren't they, Ricky? Well, commiserations, mate, but keep up your good work for rugby league.
Thanks very much, John.
Well, there's Ricky Walford. He managed to come up with one try for the St George side, one lonely try, and he'll be a disappointed man. Well, he mightn't be that disappointed because he might get a start back in the ones again next week after that performance by the side. But there's the stats.
Well, Steve Walters got 2, Ken Nagus got 2, Bradley Clyde, Albert Fullerby and Hetherington scoring tries. Ferner 5 from 7, Mal Meninga 1, Brett Hetherington, that's not right, sorry, there's a boo-boo there. For St George, Andrew Walker, Ricky Walford scoring tries and Walker kicking 1 from 3. And we can have a look at this try scored by Bradley Clyde.
Here we see
Lovely
Ricky
bit
Stewart.
of football by Stewart, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, holding the ball in 2 hands. But still, I've got to say, pretty ordinary defence by the St George side. I mean, Ricky Stewart really stuffed around there for a couple of minutes before he decided to do anything, a couple of seconds, and Bradley Clyde on the inside backing up for a tremendous try that really started the Raiders on a tremendous roll, and St George had no answer to them after that try.
No, really an overwhelming performance by Canberra. I mean, they were in 3rd position coming into this game, and that was despite losing to the Gold Coast. So they are looking like a side who is going to be right at the top of the ladder this season. Admittedly, they're a tough period ahead with the Origin games. Well,
as always, I mean, Canberra have to keep their star players on the paddock. That's been their problem in the last 3 or 4 years. Stewart, Daly, Clyde, of course, numerous injuries. Here's Kenny Nagus' first try, and just what outstanding speed he does possess. And a real athlete, as you said. Carl Lewis would be proud of Kenny Nagus. He looks like Carl Lewis with the number 2 on, and tremendous performance by him, and that'll jolt the memories of the New South Wales selectors who, from all reports, had Brett Mullins penciled into fullback New South Wales in State of Origin 1. They might have a second thoughts because Ken Nagus' performance today was probably the most outstanding performance by a fullback we've seen this year.
Sure, yeah, we saw some magnificent Aboriginal and Islander speed out there today. Too many missed tackles from St George. Now, next week, it's a split round. We don't know which game we'll be doing, but we'll join you again next Saturday.
And thanks to our football commentary teams around the country. Our live coverage back same time next week. Shortly, a full wrap of the day in sport with Rebecca Wilson. But first, good afternoon to Angela Pearman with news headlines.
Thanks, Karen. Good afternoon. Angela Pearman for ABC News. Federal Employment Minister Simon Crean has defended the government's job strategy. He says there's no basis for claims by the Australian Chamber of Commerce that many companies would not take on trainees unless they were exempt from controversial laws on unfair dismissal. Actor Leonard Teale is dead. Teale, who was 71, collapsed today while bushwalking near his home at Castlecrag in Sydney. Senior Liberal frontbencher Peter Reith has called for retention of parts of the controversial fight-back policy. His remarks directly contradict opposition leader John Hewson, who last month declared fight-back dead and buried. And the first hearing of a Mabo land claim by the Native Title Tribunal. The case in Wellington in the central west of New South Wales involves conflicting claims by 2 Aboriginal tribes. Details in our bulletin at 7 o'clock, but now to sports news.
In sports news today, Pindy wins the South Australian Oaks. And major changes to Formula One racing after a string of Grand Prix disasters. Good afternoon, I'm Rebecca Wilson. Well, a winter carnival in Brisbane is hitting its straps. Today's feature race was a $400,000 Doomben 10,000.
Pride, Morden, Cape Stout on the rail, then Flitter, slight chance making ground, and Tiny's for nearly a long way back as they turn the corner into the straight ballast out the leader, joined by Bitmaskey, all our mob on the outside, then Archie, Keelia, Morden and Flitter running home well from Bucks Pride, Bitmaskey in front past the 200, all our mob trying to get to it from Archie, Keelia and Flitter, all our mob and Bitmaskey together at 100 to go, all our mob and Bitmaskey, Flitter is flying on the outside, they hit it!
Flitter started at 12 to 1, all our mob at 10s and Bintmaskey at 6s. The running of the Goodwood Handicap in Adelaide as well today, where the favourite was Melbourne galloper Chiliad.
Around the outside of those was Balmoral, both starting to come into it from Yankee Dapper. Then All Imagination, Superior Arts got nowhere to go. Neither's Chiliad nor Ambala, and down the outside, Corregidor starting to run on, and they were followed further back by Let Him Ride, who's starting to slide, but the leader, Pitcairn Edition now, from Corregidor and down the outside, Let Him Ride is starting to come, and so is Simon Stather across the track, getting through Blue Boss, and now Ambala. Ambala, the mare, put her nose out, and she's grabbed the AWA Goodwood. Second, Simon...
A great result for the bookies there. Ambala started at 60 to 1, Simon Stad at 6s, and Let Him Ride at 12s. The Bart Cummings trained Tristalove was the hottest favourite in years in the South Australian Oaks.
And here the leader now cycling. Watch Lake Lucerne. Pindy has raced up quickly. Go Doll was next. Tristalove looking for a way clear. Has a bumping jewel there and was flattened. Tristalove in big trouble, and Pindy the Grey got to the lead of the 200 by a half to Lake Lucerne. Go Doll. Trivia Lass out of the pack. Further back to Armagh Lady, but the little grey in front. Pindy. Lake Lucerne the inside. Now Trivia Lass is coming at them. It's Pindy in front close to home. They're not going to get the grey, I don't think. No, she's got the grey. The grey's home in the...
Pindy started at 5 to 1, Trivia Lass at 16s, and Lake Lucerne 25s. Tristalove was unplaced at 10 to 7 on. To basketball now, and 3 matches in the NBL last night. In Townsville, Adelaide were big winners over the Suns, 116 to 91. The North Melbourne Giants are on a roll. They've recorded 5 wins on the trot after beating Newcastle. Meantime, at the arena in Geelong, the Perth Wildcats held off an early charge from the Cats.
The Wildcats travelled to Geelong as favourites and confident in the knowledge the Supercats hadn't beaten them at the arena since 1987. The match went each way in the first quarter. Adrian Branch on his way to a game-high 26 for the Cats.
Shoots. A pretty pure shot under pressure.
30 all at the first break, with the amazing Ricky Grace marking out Wildcat territory in offence.
To intercept, now Grace gets past Branch, up goes the shot, sensational Ricky Grace.
And his team picking up the defensive pace to hold Geelong to just 18 points in the second quarter. Things got closer in the second half, but the Wildcats held on for the predicted win. Final score Perth 119, Geelong 108.
Oh, great no-look pass to Fisher.
And just one match in the Women's National League, Adelaide easy winners over Bulleen Melbourne. And Women's League action coming up straight after sports news. Today, Sydney up against Adelaide. Well, fresh from their victory in the Five Nations tournament, the national women's hockey team has embarked on a World Cup warm-up series against Canada and New Zealand. In the first of their matches against Canada this afternoon, Australia easily won 4 goals to 1. To motor racing now, and major changes to Formula One are imminent, following the death 2 weeks ago of champion Ayrton Senna. Changes to cars and tracks will be in place this season, following yet another accident, this time on the Monaco circuit. Drivers and officials have agreed on the changes, which will slow cars down and improve the safety of racing circuits.
The highly technical sport of Formula One has been radically transformed by today's regulation changes, which initial estimates suggest could cut speeds by 15 miles an hour. There'll be a phased introduction of measures starting a fortnight on Sunday at the Spanish Grand Prix. They include the reduction both of engine power and also, eventually by 50%, of the aerodynamic downforce that allows cars to corner at speed. Cars will also be obliged to use ordinary petrol of the kind on general sale to the public. And car cockpits are also to be redesigned, lengthened to prevent the driver hitting his head in a crash.
The Formula One cars will be substantially slower in the corners and will be, as a result of that, we hope safer, even if not in places like Imola, in certain other places which we're worried about. And I think it means that we will get the whole thing back under control.
But there's no doubt that some teams, especially the smaller ones lacking money and experience, will find today's measures enormously difficult to implement. Some may find it impossible. However, there is a welcome from all the authorities for the formation today of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, a significant move in further cooperation towards greater safety in Formula One.
The drivers didn't practice today. Official practice for pole position takes place tonight, our time. Well, to rugby union now, and Queensland takes on hot favourites Natal in the Super 10 final tonight. The tournament decider at Kings Park in Durban will be played in front of more than 40,000 Natal fans. The South African team is undefeated in the series so far.
Durban's tropical climate may be the only comforting factor for Queensland. The holiday destination is a thriving city with a magnificent rugby stadium. Kings Park will have 48,000 parochial fans fiercely supporting Natal. The The two sides met in last year's Super 10 series at the same ground, Natal winning 32-15. But Queensland were missing several key players, including David Wilson and Michael Liner. They're convinced they can reverse that result.
Looking forward to the way we played Natal last time was we hit the ground very quick and got a lot of phase ball, so hopefully we're looking to do that again next time.
Natal demonstrated their adaptability when they beat Western Samoa. After playing it tight in the first half, they opened out in the second. Fullback Andre Joubert in vintage form. Last weekend, they edged out Auckland at Kings Park to remain unbeaten, the bounce of the ball deciding that contest. Both sides are studded with internationals, but Natal's huge pack will be a factor. Queensland took a battering last week against North Harbour. The extent of their recovery from injuries and jet lag will decide tonight's encounter.
To soccer now, and the FA Cup final between Manchester United and Chelsea will be played tonight our time. Manchester go into the match as odds-on favourites and will be trying to take the English Cup League double.
United have already wrapped up their second consecutive Premier League title, and if they are to grab the double, they'll be the first to do so since Liverpool in 1986. Stars like Frenchman Eric Cantona will be the Reds' strike force as they run onto the famous Wembley turf, firm favourites. But Chelsea have broken the champions both times this season in league matches, and with Wembley's tradition of upsets, the Londoners should take to the pitch with confidence.
Friday night rugby league now, and Manly took on their traditional North Shore rivals, North Sydney, last night. One of the best matches of the season featured punishing defence and limited try-scoring chances. Manly finally ran out winners 11 points to 8, cementing their place in the top 5.
Built as the 100th game between the two clubs, the record crowd was ready for a battle royal. Tempers getting a little fiery early on.
Well, Carroll's gone for 10.
I don't think Fenwick will be too far behind, I wouldn't imagine.
Keep the seat warm, here comes Marion.
Manly received the referee's view.
That you thought you'd never see again, you can actually take back again.
Gives you the ability to redraw fee-free at any time.
Knowing that is
comfort.
Yeah. It's tailored to our needs because it's allowing us to access the extra money that we've paid off the home loan.
It's peace of mind knowing that you've got the ability to do that.
Call the National 7 days a week on 008 630 600.
Gillette Sensor presents another great moment in Nine's wide world of sports. The final day of the 1991 British Open, and Queenslander Ian Baker Finch was poised for victory. But he's been in this position before, in 1984 and 1990, before letting it slip. And he's got this championship by the throat. And cruised home with a 66 to win by 2 strokes from Mike Harwood and become Australia's 4th British Open champion. Gillette Sensor, the best a man can get.
During this commercial break, someone will die of heart disease. In fact, heart and blood vessel disease is responsible for almost half of all deaths in Australia, killing nearly 1 person every 10 minutes. This week is Heart Week, and we need your donation for research and education so we can beat this killer. We'll soon be sending you an appeal letter, so please give to the Heart Foundation. Not just a charity, a necessity.
Tuesday and Thursday nights, join the crew of the Starship Enterprise in its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Space, the final frontier. Tuesday and Thursday nights, Star Trek, The Next Generation on Win Television.
Still the one in 94, Win Television.
This program, proudly sponsored by Rods and Tackle.
If you can't be out on the water right now, then we've got the next best thing.
Yes, sir, and here's a quick look at where we'll be going and what we'll be doing for the next half hour.
The Emerald Isle is the location for this week's hotspot.
I'll be showing you how the other half yacht aboard the luxury vessel Andromeda.
Queensland's Sanctuary Cove is the destination for this week's fishing trip.
Fish Shop looks at GPSs and depth sounders that swim.
Peter brings us the oriental delights of sushi and norimaki, and in Fish File, I'll be taking a look at one of my favourites, the yellowfin tuna.
How are we going to fit all that into the next half hour? I don't know.
I guess there's only one way to find out.
What's football got to do with fishing a hotspot? Quite a lot if you happen to be Irishman Jack Charlton.
One of the great advantages of being manager of the Republic of Ireland national team is the number of invitations I get to go fishing. Coarse fishing, game fishing, sea fishing. Ireland is a fantastic place for fishing.
It certainly is, and today we're going to be following Jack to a coarse fishing hotspot that offers some amazing angling. In the Northern Hemisphere off the west coast of the United Kingdom lies the Emerald Isle of Ireland. And just over 100 kilometres northeast of Dublin is beautiful County Cavan. The locals offer warm and generous hospitality, and if there's one thing Jack knows after soccer and fishing, it's how to have a good time. Coarse fishing, spelled C-O-A-R-S-E, traditionally takes in bream, rudd, roach, hybrids, tench, dace, eels, perch, pike and carp. But the Lake Jack's fishing today is a prime site for bream. Burleying with ground bait helps get the fish on the bite, but the fish are sitting about 12 or 13 metres out in a channel past a rocky underwater ledge. So the question is how to get the burley to the fish.
Hold the catapult there and then just pull back.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Spot on.
Lovely.
And catapulting the burley is obviously a tried and true local tradition.
They come in ever so easy, that first sort of 10 or 15 yards, they swim in and then they come to that ledge.
Having seen how the locals do it, Jack needed no second invitation. But all good things take time, and the time was well and truly worth the wait.
There are plenty in there, son, plenty. How about that? Look at that lot there.
We haven't been telling fibs.
If that's how they fish in Ireland, I'm going to start saving the pennies for my airfare right now. After the break, Peter's going to show us how the other half yacht.
And Paul's going to take us to Queensland's Sanctuary Cove.
Our teen suicide epidemic.
The world's highest teenage suicide rate.
Why Aussie kids are killing themselves.
I didn't think that I would be missed.
Also the true story of Free Willy.
He just loves a scratch.
Life after movie stardom.
He'll die.
Tonight on 60 Minutes.
I'm Tiny from Rd10, Queanbeyan. To catch this, you need this. And this. And this. Rods and tackle, Queanbeyan, where fishing is a serious business.
Want to catch that big one? Well, OB1 Charters, who specialise in fishing for marlin and tuna off the continental shelf of Bateman's Bay, can help. From $120 per person per day, OB1 Charters offers some of the cheapest game fishing and accommodation packages available. So call toll-free on 1800 641 065 to discuss the fishing experience of a lifetime. Remember, to catch that big one, it must be on OB1.
It's Mega Mac time. With 4 all-beef patties, it's bigger than anything.
Be there at the Canberra International Dragway to see Ford take on Holden at the annual Manufacturers Challenge. The mighty V8s will battle it out in a high horsepower showdown. Plus there'll be plenty of action from modifieds, dragsters and bikes, racing from 1 p.m. Don't miss the last Pro-Am of the season at the Canberra International Dragway, Pielago Avenue, Fairburn.
Your turn. Yum! Cadbury's chocolate, give us some. Oh, my God.
Yes, please.
With the goodness of that famous glass and a half of full cream dairy milk.
Can't I have one day off and relax on my boat? You've got to be kidding. Well, look, while you're here, I may as well show you around. Come on, we'll start over here first. Well, you might have guessed this isn't actually my boat. It's the Andromeda, a 154-foot ketch, which is skippered by Don Lessels. How are you, Don?
Oh, not too bad.
Now, what does all this do here then, Don?
Well, little chessboard over there is my crew. As you can see, each of them is named after a winch.
So the winches actually control all the sails?
Yeah.
It's all a bit confusing for me, but is it easy to do?
It was a bit confusing for me too. But no, once you get used to it, it's a great system. Yeah.
Okay. What's this thing in the middle here?
That's pop-off. It's automatic pilot. So that works on about 3 different ways. You can either use, we've got a gyro compass, or it works on the compass here, the magnetic compass, which is a backup.
Right.
And if you feel really, really brave, you can switch it on to this. It's kind of a handy little gizmo, because you see where the little boat's flashing in the centre of it. That's where we are. You can put your favourite restaurant in there, so next time you come back, you just whistle up the chart. And
yeah? Where's Doyle's on that?
Oh, not too... The print's pretty small, actually. There we go, the engine room.
So the engineer can override from you? Can he take control from you, or have you got...
Yeah, if he's feeling a bit upset with me, you can whistle down here and make a real mess of my manoeuvres.
What sort of engines you got in this?
Twin Mercedes,
right.
Turbocharged, 640 horsepower each. Drink a bit of fuel. You were asking earlier how fast we cruise. We can flat out do about 13.5.
13.5 knots.